conditioned by society. You're a victim of the digital age, a 21st century casualty. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Conditioned by misinformation, it's just the media telling us lies. Decipher fiction from the truth, society's slow and tragic demise. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Everyone's got their fucking opinion.
There you go. Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on where you are in this great big wide world of ours. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles live, and today is a somber day, very somber day. We're paying tribute to a fallen friend, a supporter, and a huge influence, not just on hardcore, Boston hardcore, or American hardcore, but huge influence on music worldwide in general. It runs deep, and we're going to talk about that today. We're going to go deep. You know, usually when somebody in this world of ours passes, you know, it's usually, you know, rest in peace, New York Hardcore Soldier, or rest in peace, you know, Boston Hardcore Soldier. But, you know, today we're talking about a 4-star general here. And I know this because I was there and I saw it with my own eyes. You know, this isn't a lot of what's going to come out of my mouth today isn't speculation or something I read in a book. This is something that I lived as a young person. And so 4-star general, somebody who really, really left the mark. And, you know, I can honestly say, you know, I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for SSD Control, or later SSD, and specifically Al Baril. And I can't say that about many people in the hardcore scene, but with a straight face, I can say that I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be doing this show right now if it wasn't for Al Baril. You know, he led the charge for us, a lot of us, very early on. And I learned quite a bit from him. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that a lot. And we have a lot of guests coming through the show today. It's going to be a long show. And interestingly enough, the longest show I think we've ever done was Al Baril. So it's only fitting that we are paying homage to him and doing this tribute show today, because it's going to be long. If you got to go pick your kids up from school, don't worry. We'll still be doing it when you come back. You know, just to set the table a little bit, in 1981, I went up to Boston, Massachusetts. I was going to Emerson College and I was studying acting. And that didn't last very long, because pretty much like the first weekend I was at Emerson, I was in the cafeteria and I met a kid with his head shaved. And I was asking him about it. And I've told this story many times, but maybe not everyone's heard it. You know, a gal named Katie, the cleaning lady, introduced me to a kid with his head shaved. And this is 1981. So rest assured, you know, in 1981, the only people that were shaving their heads, you know, were like Marines and psychopaths. So, you know, if you know, seeing a young person with their head shaved was, I mean, basically non-existent. You just didn't see that. And I asked him what he was into, and he said hardcore, like, you know, or, you know, what do you mean hardcore? Like Blondie or like Joan Jett? This was my reference, you know, the B-52s. I literally said that. I remember that. And he said, no, you ever hear of Black Flag? I said, Black Flag? You mean like the bug spray? He said, listen, why don't you just come with me to a show this weekend? And that weekend came, and we went to a place on Boylston Street, a place called the Media Workshop. And we saw, there was like 20 kids there, tops. It's 20 kids, maybe 15, 20 kids. And there was a couple bands playing. And I saw this one band, SSD Control. I think it was their third show. And when they finished, the guitar, and I jumped in. There was a little action, and I jumped in. It was fun. It was kids my age, you know. What a concept. It was kids my age. You know, before that, it was like the Rolling Stones and, you know, the Grateful Dead. And it was like idol worship. And these were kids my age, like playing music, doing something fun. And it was all kids my age. It was incredible, incredibly empowering. And so I jumped in. We, you know, it wasn't really called slam dancing then. I think we called it like whatever. We were just jumping around, smashing into each other. And when the band finished, the guitar player took his guitar off and came right up to me and said, you know, who are you? And not in a threatening way by any means, you know, who are you and what are you doing here? Because it was just exciting for him to, you know, there was a new face. And I talked to him, and that guy was Al Burrell. And soon after that, I kind of fell in with the SSD Control guys and became part of that early Boston crew. And by the way, the person that I met in the cafeteria who brought me to that show was Jack Choke Kelly, who later went on to sing in Negative Effects and Slapshot. So, and you know, that day and meeting Al and falling in with those guys changed the trajectory of my life. You know, absolutely changed the trajectory of my life. And so lots to talk about today, right? And I haven't even looked at the chat room, so let's see what's going on here. Yeah, all right. So lots of people. What's up, everybody? You know, thanks for coming out, everybody. Count Ralphus, Danielle LePage, you know, Vinny Doak, every Bridge Zoller, and everybody else. So let's bring our first guest on. And of course, you know, it must be Al's wife, Nancy. So please welcome Nancy Burrell. Hi.
Hi, guys. Hi, everybody.
How you doing?
You know, as best I guess as can be expected, you know.
Yeah.
I don't want to cry in the first minute, you know.
I know we're going to try to hold it together a little bit.
Right.
But you know what? We're going to have some laughs.
Okay, good.
And all right. So here, Margaret says, "I love you so much." And
thanks, Margaret.
And you hear that, you know, from a lot of people.
Thanks, Danielle.
And but you know what? Let's have a laugh. All right.
Okay.
Are you is this your new place or are you still in the old place?
No, I'm still in the old place, and I have to clean out this place before I can get in there May 1st. And so I gave Al the second bedroom as like a man cave for him. And when I tell you, it was legit, just like one of those Hoarders episode TV shows. Like Flippy couldn't even walk in there. You had to walk in like sideways like this. And so me and Scott and Jamie, we're all working together to try and, you know, clean it out. But as I was telling you, like, it's legit 50 of everything. Always the biggest thing that you can buy. Yeah. And then between 20 and 50 of it. Like, we have we're in a 2-bedroom condo here on the beach, and we have cameras around, and he has cameras up. And then there was a box of like 20 more cameras. I had no idea what he was going to do with them, you know, but sunglasses, 70, 80 pairs of sunglasses. You know, I should have a yard sale. I probably could make a lot, but we found some cool things. We found a Zeus. You know what a Zeus is? The guitar thing. I guess Jamie was saying that Greg Ginn had one the first time they saw Black Flag, and it's something you plug your guitar in, it gives it a big heavy sound. And
flashlights, were there flashlights?
Oh, there are hundreds and hundreds of flashlights. Batteries. I could do the whole tri-state area region till,
when I was building the show, I went back into the archive, looking at the stuff that like when he was on the show, right? So let me look in the Alvaril folder, right? He sent me this. No one's ever done it of this magnitude. He sent me this folder of pictures and everything broken down into subcategories,
annotated, yeah.
I mean, some of the stuff is just so precious. I mean, and I know this stuff's been around, but it's
my favorite right there.
Yeah, boy,
fully formed personality, age 5.
Right,
fully formed. One of my friends said to me, the photographer was trembling.
Yeah, I mean, wow. As a young person, and a couple others that really I thought just kind of set the table as Al as a child and as a young person. I like this one. I know he was proud of this one.
Yeah. He loved playing hockey, street hockey, ice hockey. He was really into it, and it was kind of who he was.
Yeah.
And he really enjoyed playing. I was going through some old stuff, and I found his little league team actually won the championship, and I found photos of that. And he definitely loved hockey. Was a big part of, and sports, huge part of Boston sports, huge part of who he was.
I like this shot a lot because it really is a snapshot of the era.
Yep.
There he is. Yeah. Right. And who's that in the shot with him?
That's his older sister and his dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. His parents, Al's parents had him very late in life. They were told they couldn't have kids, and then they had a sister, and then a few years later they really thought they were done, and they had Al, and so he was a very much adored son of this fan. He was spoiled beyond belief. First time I went to his house, his mother was pouring the syrup on his pancakes, cutting his meat for him. I should have ran for the hills, right? But that they just, they doted on him every, twice a week. A hardcore band was in their ranch house practicing in the basement.
Right.
And, my father would have never
sure
out of here, he would have never done. But Al's family, they were really accommodating and they were really supporting. He could do no wrong. And, that was good for a lot of things. The only thing they never got him was a mini bike. He held that over their heads till they were gone.
He sent this to me, and this is stuff that didn't make it up. But I'm wondering, he sent this to me, and I'm wondering, was this his stuff or was he just referencing this?
So I think that was his car, but it might have been his mother's or something. But when they got that car and it was brand new, he cut holes in it to put these speakers in, and just completely he didn't know what he was doing. He was probably, 15 or something,
Sure.
And his, parents never said anything. If I did that, my dad would have been killing me, but he got away with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
With his family, they indulged him. And it's part of the reason why he never really accepted no on anything that he did. There was always going to be a way to get something done. He refused to ever take no for an answer. He was going to find some way to make whatever he wanted to happen. And that was both good and bad, but most of the time it was pretty good,
I'm looking for this other thing that was, hold on, I gotta find this. It's so great because somebody just asked, I guess when you were digging out any Van Halen merch.
Yeah, I posted the.
What'd you post?
I posted the necklace that I found yesterday.
This is in what he sent me.
Yeah, I have that.
This is so
Yeah.
awesome.
And I
Yeah.
found the necklace yesterday, a Van Halen necklace, which I can't imagine him wearing because he wasn't a jewelry guy. But
Yeah.
I found it, and he definitely had it. Al liked stuff, he liked
Yeah.
swag, guitar picks, necklaces, anything that had band guitar picks, just all that kind of stuff. He really, really liked, and he was a child of the '70s.
Yeah.
He grew up on that stuff. So
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Let me see if I have, I pulled this one too. I just thought, because I just sort of remember when things sort of wrapped up, it was all like Al's all about jet skiing now. And it was like, what happened to Al? He retired to be a jet skier. Like, fill us in on this.
So I often make a joke about how when Al got into something, he went all in. Like, I'm talking all in. So when I meet him in July of 1982, and he's, wants me to move to Boston, I was at the top of that hit parade. And I'm telling you, he spoiled me. He bought me a stereo, a weight bench, a ring, everything. And I thought, wow, this guy is so into me. I didn't realize that was one time on the hit parade, and then something else came along. And so for this, after the band, it was the jet ski, the Kawasaki 550, which you had to stand up and be going really fast in order to ride it.
Uh-huh.
And so really had to pay your dues on it because it wouldn't go, like you couldn't go slow. You had to go fast in order to stand up on it. But we loved it. It was so different from being in dark, sometimes smoky clubs and loud. We were out in the sunshine. We were on the ocean. We were on the Inland Lakes, and it was a really good bonding time for us. We really had a lot of fun on the jet ski. And then later we bought a Sea-Doo and had that into the 90s. And then he started his second band, Gage, and then that became the focus.
Right.
And no more jet ski.
That became the
that became all in 100. I'm going to build a studio in my mother's basement and spend all this money, and which is what he did. And he was always all in.
And I don't want to get you upset.
Okay.
But I like this picture a lot.
Yeah, that's
young, so vibrant. Just a great, and I guess this is during the Gage era, right?
I think this might have been maybe a little bit before. This is at a GE company picnic that they had, and Al was on the fun team, so he was responsible for creating the fun, and they did things like tug of war and all these competitive things, which Al loved to compete in anything. That's sure. All my cousins and stuff used to like when we had picnics and stuff at our house, at my cousin's house and stuff, because if it was volleyball, he was going all in, badminton, all in. Everything was, you weren't losing if you were on Al's team. And my cousins used to get a kick out of that.
Yeah. And I think that's the same sort of ethos he brought to the early, Boston hardcore scene. The same sort of attitude of we're going deep, and one thing that I was thinking about, and I know it's going to come up a lot, is I got to say that I gleaned a lot of my work ethic from seeing what Al and how Al conducted himself early on, because it was really eye-opening to me. Like, okay, a van. He has a van. You could put your skinhead friends in the van. You could go places. You could do things. Wow, you could put out a record. You just have to educate yourself and be patient and execute. I mean, and I got a lot of my DIY work ethic from Al, I have to say.
Yeah, he definitely had a very strong work ethic. We both did, and that was, we're a little competitive in that to a certain extent. That was that's in Venice Beach. We used to go to Venice Beach every year, and we would stay at this bodybuilding hotel that was, and then we would go to like Gold's Gym and World Gym and work out. And we were in the best shape of our lives back then and really having a good time. And we did that.
Stacked.
Yeah. We
He's
did that
stacked in this shot.
We did a lot of a lot of trips to Venice and Santa Monica. We really enjoyed going to California. I remember one time walking the Venice boardwalk, and Eddie Vedder was in front of us.
Wow.
And I was like, wanted to say something. They hadn't broke yet, but we knew who they were. And he was, I guess he had a girlfriend that lived in Venice. Jeff later told us, and wanted to say something, but we didn't. But you'd always see, like, we saw Lou Ferrigno and, at the gym, and people like that. And it was always, we always had a good time in those. Yeah. And then Vegas was our other vacation spot. But once he had all those backup operations, he couldn't travel by plane anymore. So I was really glad that we did as many trips like that we did, because we really had a good time and made great memories.
Sure.
Jet ski races. That's at the jet ski races in San Diego.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Seeing, the tricks and
Sure.
we were really into the jet ski culture at that time.
There you go. What do you feel? What is Al Barill's legacy?
I think Al Barill has a lot of legacy out there. I mean, obviously, his commitment to the music and the band, but also I think it's like bigger concepts like loyalty and friendship and fun. Like, a lot of people, just the way Al looked, people thought that Al was mean but he was really funny. And if you knew him, you knew he was a funny guy. Like, that's one of the reasons I was with him for 43 years, because he would make me laugh, and I never was bored ever, because I never knew what the hell he was going to do next. But so I think, the legacy is definitely the music, the friendship, the work ethic, the straight edge piece definitely was important to him. And the fact that if you wanted to do something, make it happen. You can make it happen. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And I think that sort of carried on through the years. You want to do shows? Do shows. You want to start a band and you don't know how to play guitar? You can play like one song by the Ramones. Hey, go ahead, do it. And that's part of his legacy as well. And then in the later years, I think his legacy became a lot of be proactive about your health, because he wasn't always proactive about his health. He was he didn't get the colonoscopy when he should have gotten it, and that became something that was really important to him. And I lost count at like 30 people that told me they got colonoscopies because of Al. And that made Al happy. And that made, like, I was reading him text in the hospital when, he was kind of under and saying like, look, this person just got one because of you, And so the fact that he might've saved some people's lives, makes me happy. And I think that will be his legacy. And a lot of people, I got a lot of things in the mail where people have given donations to Dana-Farber. Trust Records has raised money for Dana-Farber. And with Trump cutting healthcare, one of Al's doctors told me, there were breakthrough stuff that was coming out in healthcare with respect to cancer, but also Alzheimer's, things like that just got shut down immediately. And so if he's not going to raise millions, but every little bit counts. And hopefully somebody else won't have to go through this heartache that I'm going through right now and his friends are going through, because that somebody will start that research up again. And for I don't want to go down a rant here, but for the president of the United States to cut health research and to attack colleges that have done, college like Harvard that, invented anesthesia and the polio vaccine and all these great things, like, doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, I digress.
Hopefully, this stuff is, cyclical in nature, and
Hi, Teresa.
it just sort of comes back around sooner than later.
I hope so too. I mean,
Yeah.
it just has to. You can't stop this ALS research.
Yeah,
You just can't stop that.
I agree. I agree with you 100%. That said, we're gonna march on, and hey, let's bring a couple of our friends on. Hold on. Let's before you go, let's bring on, of course, from SSD Control, bass player Jamie Sharappa and drummer Chris Foley. Hey, man.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Hey.
How are you guys doing?
We're hanging in there,
Yeah.
I think I wrote. It's been a long week.
Yeah.
I hate to overuse the word, but processing.
Yeah.
Too much influence to not have something to process. Have something to work through. So it's going to be a while, and that's where doing stuff like this is really good for people to be able to touch base and talk about stuff.
I believe that. I do.
And both,
Jamie,
let me just say, both Jamie and Chris were with Al in his last moments and stuff. So that was, and I know he knew you guys were there. We would be laughing about something or telling some crazy Springer story or something, and his hand would move, and so we knew he was listening.
It's always those crazy Springer stories that elicit some sort of a
response from.
Yeah, right. Jamie made it over to the house for that episode of Hoarders.
Yeah. We're slowly but surely we're emptying out all of Al's his collection of crap. It's really an amazing thing to see the amount of stuff that he accumulated. It's pretty amazing. But that's who he was. I mean, he's like Nancy's been saying, he was just always all in. If he was into something, he was into it, and he didn't want just that thing. He wanted that thing and everything else that goes along with it.
Yeah.
So he was he didn't hold any punches back when it came to buying stuff. He did whatever the hell he wanted.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have 6 guitars for sale if anyone's interested. 6 guitars. And
I got one of those. You got
one of those, Chris. Okay, yeah. And not just run of the mill best guitar you can buy.
Yeah. Les Pauls, SGs, Strats, P basses, everything.
Did you come? I'm sure you came across stuff like that he didn't even know he had.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Like the Exclaim license plate we found.
Wow.
He had that on early. I hope to find even more stuff, but I found a lot of stuff from his childhood and that made me laugh and smile and stuff. So.
Yeah. Yes, Carolyn Goldsmith. One of the only things I feel like I could do in the face of what's happening and what is to come is to cherish my loved ones with even more ferocity than before, and to hold them as tightly as I can. So,
yeah. And that is so true. Like I always say, go home and hug your loved ones or whatever. We were lucky, Al and I, because, and I don't know how lucky we were, but just frame this. Last summer, he almost died. He came very, very close to dying. He had a bowel obstruction. He couldn't eat for a month. He couldn't even have an ice chip. And that was like a big wake-up call for us because we weren't really ready. We knew that this cancer fight was going to be hard because he had an aggressive kind of cancer. But I think we were both kind of in denial of how long it was going. And we were able to go home and you should know your spouse's password to the phone, how to get into the credit cards and all that stuff. But after he got out and he had this operation, this miracle operation by this incredible Harvard doctor, he was able to eat again, and we took full advantage. He had lost 80 pounds in 2 months, and we had a second honeymoon, and it was fabulous. I mean, he was sick every once in a while, but we were doing a lot of fun things that we really wanted to do, and that started with going to Fenway when Pearl Jam had us on stage, and we realized, hey, we can do things and we can go out, and so. What she's saying is absolutely right, man. You've got, I used to say with Flippy too, when Flippy was sick, every day is a gift. Every day is a gift. And you better believe that.
Yep. Absolutely. People are responding about your call about the instruments. John
good.
Capone says I'll definitely
DM
reach
me.
out to you later, Nancy, about
message me, DM me. Yeah.
Where can I inquire about that? Just reach out to Nancy.
Find me on Facebook or Instagram.
Facebook.
I'm under my name, Nancy Burrell here. Yeah, okay. I'm on Instagram and Facebook under that name. And please, and local sales, because I can't ship to California or something. Like, I just can't. You got to come by my house and pick it up.
Right. Nancy, you're gonna hang out. I'm
gonna hang out. Yeah, I'll listen.
Is there anything you want to say? Anybody you want to thank?
No, I just really want to say that the outpouring of love that I saw. Now, I don't want to cry again, but on the day that Al passed was just the most unbelievable thing that I have ever seen, and he would have loved it. I think, Al wasn't like super. He didn't seem like he gave a shit really what people thought of him, and he really didn't. But the outpouring of love that he got proved to me that people understood who he was, and that he always felt a little misunderstood in life. But things that people said, things like Joe Nelson said, and his bandmates said, both in this band and Engage, were really powerful. And that, it just warmed my heart so much. And so I thank everybody who reached out, who posted, who said something. It was really, really heartwarming. And I know, I do believe that there's something out there, and I hope he saw it all. So.
Okay. We love you, Nancy. And we'll see you in a little bit.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Talk soon.
All right, now, which brings us to you guys.
Yeah.
So, woo, yeah. It's a lot going on, man. Is there? I told Nancy, he sent me when he was on the show. He sent me this incredible amount of really great stuff. But let me start with just before we do a little show and tell, let me start with you, Jamie. Like, is there an Al Barile story that you could lay on us? Like something that sort of is a testament to the man?
There's a million stories. What I wanted to just talk about a little bit is just how he and I met. Yeah. I probably told this story before, but I think it was like 81. It starts for me that I'm watching TV one night. I was listening to, just hard stuff, mainstream rock and all that kind of stuff. But then I'm watching TV one night, and there was a show, and some of you old farts will remember this. There was this woman, her name was Rona Barrett. She was like a news reporter or something. She has this show about the LA punk scene. And on the show is Chuck Dukowski, this photographer, his name is Gary Leonard, who later on in life I got to meet him and had a relationship with him. And this other female, and I can't remember her name. She was the manager of this band. I think they were called Mad Society. I think they were from LA. Anyways, they were on the show, and I'm just, and they show this video of Black Flag playing. Dez was singing at the time. And I'm just like so blown away by it, like the energy and the audience, and just the danger that seemed like what was surrounding this whole scene that they were talking about. So like 3 weeks later, Black Flag comes through Boston. They were supposed to play the Rat, and it got moved over to Spit, which was a punk rock club, back in the day. And so I go to the show, I see Black Flag, and I didn't know Al at the time, but Al was there. I think Richie Collins was there. I think Springer was there. Bob White was there. None of us knew each other. There was no scene yet. This was just all in the earliest days of this what we would call punk hardcore.
I got the visual. Boom.
Yes, that's the show.
Boom.
Yeah. I'm down in the audience somewhere, and there's pictures where you can see Al and I. But again, we didn't know each other at the time. But I do remember when I got to the show. I'm standing out front, and I see Chuck Dukowski, and he's arguing with the door guy because they don't want to let Al and his friends in for some reason. I don't remember what it was, but Al was like, Nancy said, he was a scary dude. He was an intimidating guy. It wasn't even like he wasn't super tall. but there was just something about the dude. And but anyways, Chuck gets the guys in and gets Al and his buddies in. And then about a month later, Dead Kennedys come to town. They play.
Excuse me. Here, just here's this one from that show.
Yeah, there's Al right there. Yeah,
there he is, right there.
Yep. Yeah, I'm probably, I'm somewhere to 5 feet from him probably.
Right.
But anyways, they come through. Dead Kennedys come through town. I go to that show, and Al's at that show as well. Again,
was that at the Fensgate Ballroom?
No, this was the show before that at the Channel. And so I went with my sister, who's a few years older than me, and we kind of lost each other in the show. So I'm leaving the place, and I come out and I see her talking to some guy. He's got sitting on the back of his blue Monte Carlo. He's got the trunk up, and they're chatting about something. And I walk over, and he gets introduced to me, and we both start talking, and we both talking about how we both wanted to start a band, and so we exchanged numbers. And he gave me his number, but the motherfucker is so intimidating that I don't call him. And about a month later, or 2 months later, maybe, I don't know how. Everything happened so quickly then. It seemed like forever, but it was in such a compact amount of time. Then the Dead Kennedys come back and they play the Fensgate Ballroom, and that's the show that you probably have pics from.
I'm on it.
Yeah. And who do I see there again? But this dude Al. He bumps into me, and first thing he says is, "What the fuck, man? I thought you were gonna call me. Don't you want to start a band?" And so I'm like, all right. I call the guy the next day, and I swear within a couple of days, him and I are down in my mother's basement. There's the Fensgate. All sorts of people.
And just as sort of a weird side note, when I told the story in the beginning about going down to when I was at Emerson and I went to the cafeteria.
Yeah,
right.
That was it. Right?
This is the cafeteria.
Yeah.
Now this happened earlier on in the summer. I showed up probably a month or two after this. And this is where we went to eat, and this is where I met Choke, and this is how it. So, Fensgate Cafeteria Ballroom or whatever. Yeah.
So Al and I, at that point we exchanged. I called him the next day, and we just started jamming. He came together, and there was another guy that I knew that we were considering as the singer, but that didn't work out. And then I think that's when him and I decided that we're going to put an ad in the Phoenix, which was the like the Village Voice. It was the paper at the time. And that's when I think that probably you came into the picture, right, Chris? You probably saw that ad.
Yep. Yeah. I saw the ad, and a good friend of mine who was Bert Payne, he was a DJ at a college, I think at Alfred University. And I remember asking him, because we had gone to see the Clash and, seen the Jam or whatever, and we thought that's what punk rock was at the time. But I showed him the ad, and I was like, what do you think about this? Because I didn't know who MT was or DKs. I knew the Dead Kennedys or Black Flag. I didn't know them. And he's like, no, you want to give them a call. This is what's happening now. And so that's what I did. Called up the Phoenix called with that ad from the Phoenix. And got a ride from my parents over to Jamie's garage.
In Everett,
we attempted to play through
Decontrol, I think.
Decontrol by Discharge.
Dare I post the ad, or why don't I read? Why don't I selectively?
You got the ad?
I do have the ad.
Oh, put that up.
The ad.
I like to see that.
I don't know if it's politically correct, Nancy.
Yeah, probably not.
No, right, Nance?
No, I would.
All right.
I'll. It was a person of the, it was the times.
Yeah, I'll read. I'm going to selectively read from it. Okay.
All right.
I'll selectively read from it. Wanna destroy. Guitarist seeks others to form a hardcore punk band. LA Punk, UK Subs, Black Flag, Pistols, Ramones, DKs, Damned, Clash. No previous band experience. No hippies. Guts needed. That's my edit of it. All right, Nance?
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds accurate,
All right, see you in a minute.
That's needed.
So
I knew something was happening when I saw that. And I was like, I got to try that out.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think our first, and Springer must have seen that ad as well, because our first practice together was, like you said, Chris, in my parents' garage. And I remember Al and I being there, and then you pull up and Springer pulls up. And yeah, that was our first practice. And like I said, I think you brought up, Decontrol, the Discharge single was, I always say that had a heavy influence on our band, just the sound of that band.
Yeah.
Obviously, we took our name from that, but Al had heard that there was another Decontrol somewhere, so we throw the SS in front of it, and then we're like, well, we can't have SS. That just sounds like a Nazi thing. And so I think it was me that came up with Society System Decontrol. We just tried to come up with two names that, two words that began with S that we could, put in our name. Al and I became fast friends. We hung out a lot, man. Those early days, there was no scene whatsoever. So him and I just would hang around in Boston on Newbury Street in front of Newbury Comics, or we'd go down. There was this club called Streets down the road. I think it was on Com Ave. We would go hang out there. And then one day we're hanging out at Newbury Comics, and this kid walks out of the place. He's got a Black Flag button on. And we're like, okay, that's the dude we need to talk to. And it was Choke. And so the three of us became the Boston hardcore scene. We were like, the three of us would go everywhere together and just hang out and just do nothing but hang out. And then some of those early shows started happening. Like one of the turning points was when DOA played this club called the Underground, which is no longer around. That closed down pretty early on.
Didn't the Black Flag came back? Didn't Black Flag come back and play? Did they come back and play Streets again?
They did play Streets. Yeah, they played. Yeah, they played a lot. I mean, Black Flag is probably responsible for most of the scenes in this country, right? Because they would just tour incessantly and play the most random cities, and every time they would play, like a month later, all of a sudden there's a scene happening there. So they're hugely influential as well.
Yeah. How did you take to this? I mean, you seem to be you kind of came into it from a different angle. How did you get into the band and it's pretty intense. How did you take to it?
It was, I actually, it was probably a little rough at first. I definitely remember being completely into the music thing, but being intimidated by the fact that, I was 16 and a lot of these people were 18, 19, 20. They're on with their lives, and I'm going home to my parents and my bed at home. So I remember that first summer actually talking a lot with Al, and I was thinking about this actually. I didn't think I was going to make it. And I think I told him I was going to play through the summer and we'll see how things go. And he really, stuck with me and, was saying, hey, stick it out. And I don't know, I said to somebody the other day, I came this close to being the Pete Best of SSD, and so glad that I stuck around, and the fact that he stuck with me. I think I might have pointed out, I believe on the first record, of the thank yous, the last one is Chris, or one of the last ones. Maybe that's somebody else, or maybe he sent it to me. I was never quite sure of that, but I always took it that he was saying thank you to me. And I didn't think of it because I was like the special player. I think it was just, hey, thanks for sticking around.
I was hanging out with Al, just a week before he left, and he mentioned that to me. He says, I always knew I had to keep Chris happy. You got to keep the drummer happy, because he knew that if you left, we were fucked.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, just last night, we're gearing up to do this My War thing. I'm getting married, and we're doing this My War thing, and we were playing Glue last night, right?
Nice.
And we were talking about how incredibly simple it is, but sometimes just the pure, straightforward simplicity of it. And I said to the guys, I said, listen, this band, yes, incredibly simplistic, but there was one guy in this band who later went on to Berkeley, and he was the one musician of the band. And all in unison, they said, the drummer? And I said, yeah, the drummer. Yeah. The drummer was the guy with that with the Gretsch drum set,
The Gretsch kit,
the Gretsch kit. He was the guy that anchored. This guy, Chris Foley, anchored the whole friggin' thing, man.
Glue, in kind of refreshing my memory on that song when we played it a little while ago, I didn't realize the kick drum is just going straight all the way through. It's just all straight through the whole song. I was like, wow, okay, now I get it. So you're absolutely right. It was just turn it on and go.
No finesse whatsoever.
No,
just jackhammer the whole way through.
I think when you're young, you don't appreciate some of that stuff. But when, like Chris said, we did that. We did Glue with AF a little while ago, and I was watching him drum. I was like, holy shit, man! I didn't realize just how amazing he was as a drummer. I mean, I knew it, back in the day, but you just don't have the appreciation of stuff, I think, when you're young. But yeah,
100%. And we're gonna bring another guest on in a minute, but I want to. This is an early memory of mine, and this is, I mean, this sort of sums up a lot to me of the early kind of this one is the quintessential. This one I can relate to. I was there. I took personal pictures I have from the show, but this is the early SSD Control that I remember at the Media Workshop, which was basically like just a totally illegal place, playing on ramshackle equipment, for the most part, except for Chris's drum set,
Except for
and Springer hanging himself, and you got and it just being the most entertaining thing we've ever seen.
Well, look at Al. Look at Al. He's laughing his head off.
Yeah.
That was the beauty of Springer. You never knew what the hell he was going to do. I mean, there's so many stories about the props that he would bring out on stage and just the antics. I mean, he is the quintessential frontman. I mean, just ultimately entertaining to watch. I mean, there's never a dull moment with that guy to this day. I don't think there's ever been a dull moment in that guy's life.
And like we said before, I mean, the kid sitting there that's Brian Betzger, who later who played in Jerry's Kids in Gangrene. The kids were like 14, 15, 16 years old. In the room back then. I mean, like I was older. I was like 19, 18 or whatever. I was like an older kid,
Yep.
So, that part of it. And just one other one before we move on, but this one is from the same show, and something that like Al used to do is like take off his guitar and jump into the crowd,
Yeah, that pit pile thing definitely became a thing with us, and it could happen at any given moment. And like you said, if it was in the middle of a set, Al was like, "Fuck it, I'm jumping in on it." And it just ripped his guitar off.
Yeah, and that's lying on the ground, sick of things the way they are. That's Steve Grimes, but in the white shirt, that's Jake Phelps.
That's Jake Phelps.
That's Jake Phelps.
Richie Collins.
Yeah, Richie Collins is getting his head smashed by Al's back.
Yep.
I think that's Pat Raftery, kind of like looked like he's trying to climb into Al's crotch. I think that's Pat Raftery.
And then you could see me behind the speaker with the camera in my hand.
Yeah.
And I have those.
Engelman.
I have those. I have those pictures still to this day.
Yeah. I think that's Bob Farapples next to Julie Engelman, and then John
Sachs. And the one thing I want to know is the kid in the black with the 8mm. Where's that footage? Where is that footage that kid shot? Oh, and you know what? You don't even notice Springer on the floor on his back singing. I didn't notice that.
Yeah. That's up on the stage still with the white shirt, the DX on it. That's Matt Dykman.
Oh, Matt Dykman.
He's a Marblehead guy. Yeah, he's one of the guys on the back of the album. Thanked Jay.
Yeah, and speaking of back of the album, thanked. This is the back of the album, and it's gonna kind of segue to bringing our next guest on. But this is the back, the thank yous of the kids will have their say. Yep. Walk us through it a little bit, Jamie, from the top.
Yeah, well, you got Mike Bastarash. He was affectionately known as Mr. B. We owe so much to that guy. He financed a lot of the early SSD stuff and kind of was our guiding light as far as like recording. We didn't know nobody really knew what they were doing. And I'm not even sure if he really knew what he was doing, but he was super passionate about it. And what's that?
No, I was just going to say that the one thing I remember is that he was schooled in music. The guy knew music, and I really felt like he made us feel like what we were doing, like, yeah, what you're doing is completely important. And you know, at a time when it was like people would be, oh, you guys sound like a bunch of noise. He was like, no, you guys are great rock music. I like really heavy rock music. And he kind of legitimized us in a way, you know?
Yeah. And the funny thing about, you know, to look at the guy, he was like this, like, he looked like a businessman. He always wear a suit and tie. He always wore like an overcoat, like a fedora hat. He had like, you know.
And how exactly did he come into your orbit?
He was pretty involved in the Boston music scene. I think he used to write for like Boston Rock. So he was just kind of a guy that was always at shows, and we'd see him and he'd come to our shows, our early shows, and we'd be like, who the fuck is this guy? You know, like he looked so out of place. But then he was, you know, we'd talk to him like, holy shit, this guy's so cool. He really knows music.
There's photos from like those media workshop photos where there's like, you know, 30 of us there. You see him standing. He was always with a gal. I don't know if he was always with a girl.
Yeah, and, I think that's his wife or girlfriend.
His wife or his daughter, his girlfriend. I don't know.
It was his girlfriend. Yeah,
they were always sitting there looking really out of place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but like I said, he was with us from the beginning to the end. I mean, he helped us out a lot. And then the next one down, you know, co-produced by Lou Giordano. Lou was he just wrote a great thing about Al, and you know, just about how, you know, he was another guy that really didn't have a lot of experience. He was an MIT student. I think he was like electrical engineer. But I don't think he really knew a ton about recording and all that kind of stuff. So we were all kind of learning as we went along. But he ended up being like a sixth member of the band, just in that he came to every show. He did our sound for us. When we went on that West Coast tour, he was in the van with a bunch of sweaty guys, you know, doing sound for us at all the shows.
Yeah, he was cool. Lou was a gamer.
He was a good guy.
Yeah, he was a gamer. He was down.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And Larry Lassard, I remember he engineered it, right? Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, Chris probably remembers better than I do. But yeah, we did a recording session that ended up not really kind of working out at Larry Lassard's studio, which was basically in his basement, I think, or garage of his house. Yeah.
Remember that day we went in? I remember going and loading all our equipment into the basement, wood panel basement, going through the arduous process of miking the drums, getting all the drum sounds. I think we even got bass sounds. And then Al went and he struck one chord on his guitar. And Larry Lassard's dad comes running down the stairs and says, "What do you think this is? A noise factory?" And he like
kicked us all out.
The plug out of the wall.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
and
we had to
kick us out. And what did he? I think the next time he had paid, we went back. He had paid for his dad to go to lunch in a movie or something like that. But he managed to get him out of the house.
Wow. That's a story.
So, like it says, there was many recordings of this record. We were never quite happy, and you know, even the final, I don't think it ever really captured what we were about. But then going down the list, you got Bridget Burpee, who later became Bridget Collins, married to Richie from Negative Effects. She was still to this day a great friend of mine. She's my oldest punk rock friend, meaning like the first like punk rock kid that I ever met. So yeah, she's just an amazing person. And then you got Phil and Flash, Springer's brother, who was, you know, photographed us endlessly.
And of course took this shot, which was the cover, right?
Of course.
I mean, shot you guys endlessly, but I mean,
but that was I mean,
you know what I friggin' love about this too is, you know, we just shouted out Bridget. you know, how I love how the Letraset lettering is just, it's not perfect.
Not perfect.
I just love how everything is just skewed, and it's just, it just screams DIY. It just screams, you know, early American hardcore. I friggin' love that, man.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And I always thought it was very professional, especially like you said, for the time. You get those letter sets and you'd stencil those letters on and try to, you know, it was a lot. It was so much more work, back then.
100%.
And then you got, you know, well, this is the re-release, so you got, you know, Brian Ray Turcotte. He you know, he did all the artwork for that, kind of reproducing this whole thing. Then you got, thanks to our parents, of course, Al's parents, dude. Al's parents put up with so much shit. I mean, we were practicing that basement, you know, twice a week. We'd come home from gigs at like 3 o'clock in the morning and wake the whole house up. I mean, they were just saints that they put up with the amount of shit that we laid on them.
Right. Mr. B.
You got, Lou.
I lost him.
They
oh, there he is.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. We got we lost you. We lost you at Mr. B.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you got Mr. B. You got Ian Mackay, right? You got Discord Records, because they helped us out. They, you know, this was like, what was it? Discord 7.5 or something like that. This record. Yeah. Then you got Dwayne, obviously, Dwayne and Al from the Gallery East.
So let's throw the flag right. Let's throw the flag right there. Let's throw the flag with Dwayne and Al from Gallery East, and let's bring on Dwayne Lucia, who was a big part of Gallery East. Hey, man.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. I'm going to give a shout out to Al in hardcore heaven.
Yeah.
Fuck Trump.
Of course. You know, Dwayne, you were a big part of Gallery East, and I want to, where is that great shot? Let me find it. Here we go. Tell us a little bit about, you know, I love the story about how you met Al. If you could give us an abbreviated version of that, and then kind of like what's going on here.
So first I'll tell you about how I met Al. It was January 31st, 1981. It was the Mission of Burma, Stains, CCP TV, and one of Al's favorite bands, Wild Stairs. That was always a tongue-in-cheek joke from Al. But anyways, he was there to see the show, and they were like kind of, him and his friend at the time was this guy by the name of Lee, who came from Lynn, and they were bouncing around and scaring people. And, you know, I had to tell them, like, the people are all, you know, concerned because they were pogoing and Al was trying to get a pick going. And so he said, oh, we're just trying to do our thing. You know, we want to start a scene. So something broke. He came back a couple of days later and fixed it, and we gave him an opportunity to do a show. Al was the quintessential responsible sort of adult in the room in the whole hardcore scene. Always vigilant, always you know, sort of like looking out, making sure everything was going according to plan. And this show, I believe, was from a September 19th show with the Freeze. The police came and shut it down, and that's where the film came from that you opened the show with. And that's Jamie there on the left, Al Ford to the left of Jamie, Al Burrill in the middle with the straight edge shirt and the Boston Cop. And the Boston Cops were always great to us. They never, you know, even though it was singing Police Beat and songs like that, they were never really like, you know, acting the way they did probably in LA. They always respected the fact that the kids came and didn't really cause any trouble. There was not any alcohol or drugs. So that sort of added to the, you know, the peaceful interactions.
Yep. Oh, hold on.
Sorry, I was muted.
That's
What? And listen, and I remember these days and Gallery East and what was going on in that neighborhood. There wasn't much down there. What would possibly bring the Boston police into one of these shows? Since when did they give a fuck what we were doing on a Sunday afternoon?
Well, ultimately, we had a petition signed against us by a bunch of artists in the neighborhood who were actually living in their lofts illegally.
Yeah.
So because we were raising hell, they decided to call the cops on us. And I think that's what brought them down.
That's so friggin' lame. And here's just a couple of, for those that may not know, Dwayne, just explain like what the Gallery East was and how Al Ford sort of was one of our patron saints early on.
Yeah, so we opened the gallery in 1979, and we really didn't start having music until late 1980, when the guys who practiced upstairs, the Wild Stairs, and I think the Neats were in there. They were the Propeller Records guys. They wanted to start doing shows, and they did shows. And like I said, the first show that I met Al Barile at was in January of '81, and it just took off from there. I think the first show that SSD did was in August of 1981. And it's kind of crazy because I wasn't even at that show, even though it was my place. We had given the gallery to Jack Darling at the time, who was a musician artist. And but the crazy thing was Al Barile was so responsible that I would have given him the keys to the bank, the kids. He overlooked everything. He made sure everything ran like clockwork.
And this is a shot from that first show with the Stains, and when you had to put the plywood up on the windows, right? Because when you sort of use that as a stage over there before we built that other stage. But this is that first show,
Yeah, we didn't want anybody to go through the windows. That was the thing, and we knew kids were going to jump up on the stage, and who knew what Springer was going to do, and there was the glass there, so if somebody could have easily gone through it, and that was Al's decision to put that plywood up there.
And
and I might add, everything else.
Please.
Everything else was concrete. I just remember the concrete floor, the concrete stage. I mean, bodies were just slamming off that floor. It was, and that was our first show, like you say, and just realized like, oh shit, man, we got something going on here. It was like, it was what Al and I had talked about for so long. I mean, everyone knows the stories of us meeting, Henry at the Black Flag show in New York, and us having that conversation of, wanting to start a scene similar to that, where it was just a bunch of people that knew each other and, had each other's back and that whole thing. I love
that I love the admission price, $2. It's $2. Like, listen, it's $2, right?
Yep.
Well, what's really funny is when we went up for $1. It went up to $3 after that, and then when Minor Threat came to play, Al and I had this long conversation about raising the price from $3 to $5. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, and what's cool is like that first show, there's like 4 different homemade flyers,
Yep.
So and
we were making flyers before we even had photos of the band yet, as you can see, where we used the Discharge album cover. Or cover.
Let's put this and this one's cool. This one doesn't even have. I love this one. Doesn't even have the band's names on it. It's just like, listen, this is all you need to know. All right, Boston. It's hardcore punk, no alcohol, all ages. Boston hardcore will rule. Special surprise guest.
I think it was. We thought it might be Black Flag. We're going to show. I forget what. Because I think they played the same day, maybe. I forget.
Okay.
But those early flyers, man, they're hilarious. Like I said, there's so many. I'd say the first 2 or 3 flyers we felt like we had to put pictures on them. I mean, that one didn't, but you know, and we would just find random pictures of like skinheads and stuff like that and throw it on there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yep. And these are all like the same show. There's like 7 flyers from the same show.
Yeah.
You know? It's
and
like,
you know, that's the quintessential Al Burrell writing. Like, I mean, I'd recognize his handwriting anywhere. I know he always complained he hated how it looked, but to me, that was like, I don't know, that like represented decontrol as a decontrol at the
That's
time.
it right there. That's
Yeah.
it. That's it. The thick lettering with the thick marker. That's an Al thing for sure.
Yeah.
And then he had on that particular poster had the and the rat bouncers suck at the bottom of it, which got us into a lot of trouble. Remember when we went and played the rat a couple of weeks later or something?
Yeah, I got another one. Just another, you know, because like, you know, you knew an Al flyer when you saw it, right? Like, this is what it is. Black and white.
Big. Everything big.
Yeah. Dwayne, just as we're sort of rolling on here, what do you feel is Al's legacy, and you know, how will he be remembered?
You know, Al was all about think for yourself. You know, I don't think that there was anything that represented him more than that. And you know, I look at these guys like Ian MacKaye and other people who were sort of leaders in their scene. They weren't heroes; they were guardians. They knew that there was something special that they were doing, and you know, they were. Like I said about Al, he was vigilant. He was watching out for everybody. He, you know, if you look at some of the pictures, I think there's one with Jamie in the pit. It was a Negative FX show at Gallery East, and everybody's in the pit except Al. He's on stage protecting the equipment from getting knocked over. And I think that just sort of exemplifies who he was, you know, in terms of, you know, being vigilant for the scene.
Yep.
Yeah, makes sense. Hey, Dwayne, thanks a lot, man. And
all right, guys.
See you, and we'll see you up there soon, man.
You will. Take care. Bye.
Take care.
Take care, Jay.
Man.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. I mean, you know, another guy that like without him, you know, things would have been very different for the Boston scene. You know, I mean, the Gallery East was, you know, that was, you know, so many great early shows there. And you know, we needed places that would accept us because clubs wouldn't. And we didn't want to play clubs because they had a drinking age. And unfortunately, most places you played it once and that was it. Then when they saw what was going on, they were like, fuck that. You're never coming back here again. But Dwayne, you know, he was the coolest, man. He let us play multiple times at his place.
Yeah.
And I remember hanging in the parking lot with, you know, kids before the show. I'm sure the neighbors didn't like that, but, you know, all of a sudden a piece of plywood shows up and now you have a ramp. And, you know, there was a place to be because of the Gallery East. Otherwise, you know, I'm sure other places developed, but that was pretty much one of the first ones.
And this is like what Dwayne was saying, how like Al's protecting the equipment, and Jamie it makes me chuckle because there's John Stabb from Government Issue. He's wearing the
those plaid pants, those striped pants. Yeah, you got to tell that story, Drew. I mean, I know we've told it a million times.
You reminded me of that story because
you
reminded me of that story. How I just totally berated.
When second time SSD's playing DC, we're playing the Chancery, and that day we went to Georgetown and just were, you know, just raising hell in Georgetown, and you know, you were there, of course. As were, you know, there was probably a dozen or 15. I think there was quite a few cars that went down for that. But yeah, we go into show. I mean, we go into a record store, and the doorman is questioning us or something, and you walk by me like, "Nice pants, dude," and it's John Stabb wearing those exact pants.
Yeah, you know, youth. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. What can you do? You know, that said, I want to bring on a friend, a special guest. I know he's making the time. I want to wish him a happy birthday. Coming at us from Los Angeles, I believe. Please welcome Mr. Ian MacKaye. Hi, buddy.
Hey, man.
Hey guys,
Hey, Ian.
What's going on, Ian?
hey, everybody, nice to see you all.
Yeah.
Happy
I was at
birthday.
that- Thanks.
Yeah,
thanks.
happy birthday, man.
I was at that GI show at Gallery East. I came up for that.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you remember that? I was there for that gig. That was a good gig.
Yeah,
GI.
that was a great show,
night.
man. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
your story about Georgetown was John stabbed. He wasn't working the door because he used to
Yeah,
work. At
he
a
was.
record store.
It was a record store that I think. Did he work at a record store?
It was Olson. Yeah, Olson Books and Records. He was the bag checker.
Yes,
He sat at the
bag
front door
checker.
taking the bag.
We
Yeah,
went
yeah.
to we went to a record store, and then we went to a movie theater where you were working. You were like an usher in a
Georgetown.
movie theater.
Yeah, Georgetown Movie Theater. Yeah.
Huh.
We all worked in Georgetown. That was our
Yep.
that's where everybody hung out. So it was a spot.
Yeah.
But actually I
Yeah.
filled in John. I had to fill in for John a couple of times down at the
Oh, yeah?
record store, record bookstore. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a good, but that's a good job because you have to talk to everybody coming through the door always. So it was nice. And I caught the end. Was that the guy that ran Gallery East that was on before?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Because of course Meyer Threat played up there as well. That was, a
Yeah.
really pretty similar. That was Al. I mean, Al was that dude was like, we're going to do this. I said, we're going to do it. And last night, I did a talk last night with Kevin Seconds, and I did a talk together. And I talked about the early formation of the punk scene, at least in my mind, and that there was each town had these scenes that were starting to grow, and you would make these connections. And Al was one of the first people that I actually really connected with. Kevin in Reno, Al in Boston, Corey up in the Midwest, Maumee, Necro, Detroit area, and but Al was really he was calling on the phone. We talked a lot on the phone. And it was really interesting developing this relationship because we were all kids, but we're all involved with punk. We're coming at it from a slightly different connection, but whatever the differences were, the fact that we were doing it all made us really like a community. We were immediately we had this like serious shared interest and like safe harbor for each other. And I was saying that on the Meyer Threats our second tour, our second attempted tour. The first one in '81 didn't work out, but the geography of the country, and this is from my point of view, as somebody who was booking the shows, the tour date shows was revealing to how I saw like safe harbor. So we left Washington and we drove straight to Boston and played a show with Al and you guys. We played the Gallery East gig. You guys didn't play, but I think Al didn't want to be on the bill that day. He thought it was more important for him to make sure the gig was happening.
Sounds like Al.
We played with Negative. I think we played with Negative Effects.
So.
Negative Effects, I think, played that show.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I think that
somebody
was their
else.
first show.
Yeah, and then I can't remember who the other band was, but then
Proletariat.
the next show,
Proletariat.
was it Proletariat? Yeah, that's right.
I think so.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
And then the next show was Detroit at the Freezer. We played there with Negative Approach and a bunch of other other bands. And then our next show was Reno. So we were literally following. Oh yeah, that's a great shot. Who
That's
took that
Gallery
picture?
That's a Phil and Flash show.
Was
Probably
it
never
Film
been
Fresh?
seen.
Wow.
Probably never been
seen that
seen, but
before.
it's never been seen before. It's
That's cool.
It's
Amazing shot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Gallery East.
Yeah. Well, you can't see there's a pillar in it, but you don't see it there, I guess.
Yeah,
Actually, there's a photo of Meyer Threat playing that we put in the there was like a little square thing
That's
insert.
right.
We put it out a step, and it's a photo of me jumping in the air, and then you can see this sort of weird shadow, and it's because somebody else took the same exact picture at the same moment, and you can. I finally found both photos, and so you have. But it's a really, I love that shot. Anyway, I do remember. Also, we stayed with Al. I'm pretty sure on that first trip. Actually, I know we did because all I wrote about is do you want to get pizza? We had like pizza for dinner and then for breakfast. And I remember having a fight with him. I said, your pizza is really just too much tomato. He's like, that's the only kind of pizza. He had some attitude about pizza, and it was amazing making these stops and getting to know these people, and hanging out with Kevin last night was just so sweet. And of course, we had some words for Al from the stage. I'm really grateful not only for meeting Al, but also for knowing him and staying in touch with him and feeling loved by the guy, for so many years. That he was a tough customer, but boy, he had a heart. He's a really, really, that motherfucker meant it. He really did.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate people who give a fuck and care.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would say there was zero bullshit when it came to Al Burrell. I mean, he was as real and truthful as it could be. Sometimes painfully so.
Sometimes too real. He once called me up.
Yeah.
He was real. He was really mad at somebody. Somebody you all may have known. I think I know. And he called me up. He said, I think I'm going to kill him. And I said, Al, I don't think you should kill anybody. And he goes, no, he's got to go. And I said, you should think this out. Do you really want to go to jail over this? But he was really 100% plotting a murder at that moment. So, I think I talked about it. I talked him from the tree, though. I think he was ready to go.
He has laser focus. I mean, but that's also, I think, where people who had a small conversation with him, when you had Al's focus, you had it. And he would get into what you were talking about. He would be into it. And then he would move on to something else.
Right.
And I'm sure that, I don't know, maybe a diagnosis or something like that, when nowadays would put him on a spectrum or something. Back in the days, people just said, he's an asshole, but he's a totally nice guy.
Right.
Right. You put up with the fact that his attention was different than other people's attention. But like you said, I think laser focus with everything he did. That's the way it was, and I'm glad you took him off the track of, that guy out.
I think that was a mission he was planning on accomplishing. I was like,
you know what? Let me hold on. Hey Nancy, did you get that Ian saved Al from a life of
jail time.
I remember that. I remember that situation. I kind of was on, I kind of wanted to do it too, but he was very passionate. Al was definitely laser focus is the thing, and real to a fault. I remember one time I was like, Al, you never compliment me, and he said, I complimented you like last year. What are you talking about?
Right, yeah.
Dead serious. You want me to compliment you every year?
Yeah.
Forget it, And I tell the story about when he came to pick me up from school one day. I threw my bag in the car. Flippy was on the seat. And I realized I forgot something. And he was on the phone with his doctor at the time. So I ran back into school. When I came out, he was gone. And I was like, what happened? Where did he go? And so I was just like standing there for like 5 minutes. I thought maybe a cop made a move. And then all of a sudden he came bombing around the corner in his truck. And he was like, oh my God, thank God you were there. I got halfway home and realized you weren't sitting in the seat. And I thought I ran over you.
Wow.
That was Al, he was just, when he had his mind on something. So Ian, thank you for being here. He thought the world of you, and he wanted to talk to you before he left, and so
that was a great gift. I really appreciate you making that happen.
Thank you. It was a gift to me too. So
when you guys are talking about, I was just thinking about he just would not let it go that I didn't like merch, and and then he wouldn't, and he could not handle the fact that I wouldn't wear an SSD baseball hat, even if it was. He goes, I made a burgundy one. What do you want?
Yeah, he was such a child of the 70s. He liked sweepstakes and he liked merch and things with, he really got into it. I mean, you should see the stuff I have here, jewelry and
Yeah.
My SSD thing. He just enjoyed it, you know. He really enjoyed doing it and providing it for the people. You know? But I would be like, stop it.
His merch game was on point.
Right.
No, for sure.
I would have kept doing the merch, but there was legit 40 different hats, golf hats, knit hats, baseball hats, adjustable hats. I couldn't.
I'm telling you, could never have dreamed what he was going to do. I remember when he kind of asked us, the rest of the people in the band, like, "Hey, do you mind if I kind of like do a couple of shirts and just do, you know, some little things?" And I was like, I know he was at home with the back problems, and I was just like, "Yeah, Al, do whatever you want, man. That's going to keep you busy, having fun.
Enjoyed it.
Go for it." And then it was like, all of a sudden, there's like a merch store with every possible. And my son loves it. My son wears the stuff all the time.
Well, that's good. Yeah, it is cool when we do see, you know, people wearing it. So anybody who wants to know about this, I should say, Trust Records took over the store. And so Bridge 9, I had it all piled up on the lawn. You know, it's kind of bittersweet, but also kind of like, get this out of my house. And so, and everything was the highest quality. He did not skimp on anything. I mean, it was, you know, hefty, you know, everything was just, so if you bought some merch, but Trust Records took it all over. They're going to have it back out in, you know, pretty soon. So I hope, you know, people will continue to support and keep the band's name alive, because he would have really liked that. So
for sure.
Fantastic. Nance, we'll see you in a minute. Okay. What's Al Baril's legacy as we sort of, as we move on, in your opinion, does Al Baril have a legacy?
That's a very odd question. What I mean, that seems to me would go without saying, don't you? I mean, yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't even ask if he had one, or if there was. You know, I think Al carved out a spot. I mean, this is the thing. It's like it's a collective. All scenes are collective, really, but you usually have somebody, and all bands are really collective. But there's usually somebody who just has the kind of vision or the kind of forwardness or the shamelessness, really, like just to get out there. Like there's other people in the band who have other people in band or scenes who they're doing something, making it all happen. And Al, for me, like that was my Boston guy. Like we just became, I think, just really. I feel like I really understood. I understood him, even though some of his stuff was so much more extreme, you know, than mine. I remember when he first came to Washington, he was I think he's a little disappointed, frankly. He was like, "You guys, if you all remember when you came to Washington the first time, the high school show, and whenever I remember when you all arrived, it was snowing, and I was asleep upstairs. I'd been driving the newspaper truck the night before." And I just heard this banging. I came down, you were all stomping the snow off your boots. And then the show happened, and I was like, these DC kids they're small, and it's like it's just weird here. Like, he was not at all. I think he was expecting, you know, another army or something. He seemed a little disappointed, but you know, that's all right. I think he grew to understand that we had something of our own. We were up to something. I also remember you guys. There was the crew did a. What'd you guys call it? A pig pile?
Pig pile, yeah.
That didn't go over well with the DC kids because
didn't somebody like break a rib or something?
Yeah,
like that?
A guy got his arm or rib broken. Yeah. And he's just like a kid at the show, and we're like, all right, fuck you guys, you know. This
we got a lot of shit for that.
A civilian.
Yeah, I mean, it was. You know, but it was a high school show, and he was a long-haired kid.
Here you go, Woodlawn High School.
Yeah.
There it is.
But it was. So I think Al. I feel like his attention to detail, his sort of unrelenting philosophy, his absolute surety. Like, talk with him over the years about his medical situation. That guy always knew more than the doctors, in his opinion. Always, you know, he was always explaining to me, they're doing this wrong, blah, 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 blah. And I kept saying to him, I feel like stress might be an issue here. You know, maybe we should work on that, you know, but he's like, no, blah, 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 you know. I do want to tell Fugazi, he's legendary in our band. Aside from the fact we just loved him and he's our friend and we love the band. Obviously everyone in the band had seen him, seen SSD, you've seen you guys. But we had the first time Fugazi played, and this is actually an appropriate day for this. The first time we ever played in Boston was on April 16th, my birthday, 1988. And we played at a place up in, I think it was Jamaica Plains, maybe? Or Jamaica. Is it Jamaica or Jamaica Plains? What is it?
Jamaica Plain.
Jamaica Plains. It
Was it the art
Green-
school show?
No, Green Street or the Green. What's it called? Look it up on the. It's on the Fugazi Live
Green
series.
Street. No, you're right. There was the club Green Street. Yeah,
That's it.
Jamaica
Yeah, we
Plain.
played. So we played there, and I think, I think it's possible that Mike Gitter set up the show, but anyway, Mike was there, and he was interviewing us for a zine, right? Triple X. So the four of us and Mike are sitting in our van during the interview, and Al gets in. He's there too. And he'd just seen us play. I'm pretty sure he thought we were terrible. And, because he's like, what is this? You're breaking the rules here. So we're having this interview, and then Gitters asked us about, like, are you guys really vegetarian? And I was like, at that point, I'd been a vegetarian for 3 years. And I said, we're a vegetarian. So we're kind of talking about being on the road and all this stuff. And Al is just sitting there, like, watching us and kind of with this look of it. He was incredulous, really. Mm-hmm. And at some point he just said, hold on, what if don't you ever want to just pull over and buy a bag of burgers? I'm like, no. And to this day, we talk about when we were driving, like we'll get together, like we'll go have dinner or something, and someone will go like, how about let's go pull over and get a bag of burgers, and we all know exactly what the reference is. And Gitter lost that cassette, and now he and I both have been trying to find that cassette for years, and all I really want to hear is Al asking us. He's like, how could you not want to pull over and get a bag of burgers? So that's great. I really wanted Al to come down. Nancy came down to Discord. We had a great time. I would have loved if he could have made it down, but I think it was at that point he had to take care of himself. But I am grateful that we would talk sporadically. I knew calling Al was going to be what a stem winder is. That term, stem winder. Stem winder is kind of outdated now, but a stem winder is, as I understand it, is that when people did something, talk for a long time, or you had a long conversation or a long phone call, whatever, or if you saw someone giving a speech, mm-hmm. The old pocket watches would run out. You have to wind up you have to wind it up because you're going. So I used to say, like, oh, I know this is going to be a stem winder. You're not getting off the phone with Al in 10 minutes. No. Like you're going to be on the phone for a while, and you're going to be hearing, you're going to hear a lot of his thoughts and opinions about everything. I remember when he said to me, he said, well, I don't have a guitar. He said, I sold all my shit and bought a jet ski. I was like, what? Are you out of your fucking mind? But he did. He said, I'm retired. I don't need an instrument. I need a jet ski. Does this sound correct to you guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
we were showing the jet ski pictures at the beginning of the show.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
It blew my mind. It just I don't give a fuck about buying a jet ski, but selling all your gear to buy a jet ski, I mean, that seems insane. But he was absolutely very clear. And then when he wanted to return to music, he called me up. He was like, "I'm returning to music." So all right, and they did Gage, right? He was absolutely. I think in many ways, Al always had his eye on the prize, whatever he thought of it, however he thought of it, and he didn't have. And the funny thing about him is that even though there was these like goals he had, like obviously dealing with his back or with the merch stuff, whatever, he had these really set goals. He also, I don't know how he found time to engage in ridiculous online squabbles, which you tell me about these. He was still fighting with the New York guys, like years later. And I'm like, why are you just let it go? Like, he's like, I forgot, somebody said something about, who was it? Was it Harley? Somebody, no, it may have been John, but somebody from New York had said like, oh, the Boston guys came down, but then we showed them what's what. And Al was not having that. Yeah, I was not. And this is like, we're talking about really in our 50s. And I was like, ow, let it go.
Right.
Anyway, I got to jump off. Thank you, Drew, for actually bringing this to my attention and let me know. And thank you guys for letting me butt in here. Obviously, Al was somebody who I love dearly. I feel so grateful to have known him. And I also feel like that, when you talk about something like legacy, I think his legacy was in place long before he died. And he already was a force to be reckoned with, and reckoned with him we did.
Thank you, Ian. And we'll talk soon.
Thanks, man.
Happy birthday, bro.
Thank you so much. See you all.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Take care.
Take care, man.
Oh, that's nice.
That's cool. Yeah, Al thought the world of Ian, as you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Good
love
work,
Ian.
Drew.
Man.
Good work.
Ian's a good dude, man.
Yeah.
He always responds.
Yep.
Hey, we got our next bunch of guys lined up. Special guests. Let's take a sponsor break, because I'd like to go to the bathroom, and it's going to be a long show. But you guys, I'd like to bring you guys back on. I like how we're doing it here.
Yeah.
If it's cool with you,
I still want to just real quickly go through those thank yous. There's a few people I want to shout out.
Okay. Let me take a sponsor break. Let's come back. Let's bring on Mike Judge and Eugene Robinson.
Nice.
And then eventually Joe Nelson, and we'll get to it. We're in no rush here, so I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys in a few.
All right.
And there you go. We're going to do a sponsor break, and we'll be back in a few. Don't go anywhere. Since 1992, Generation Records has been a mainstay of the New York metropolitan area music scene. Today, they offer a diverse selection of new and used rock, jazz, indie, hip-hop, punk, hardcore, metal, blues, soundtrack, and reggae LPs, as well as t-shirts, posters, and other merchandise. They buy used record collections and music memorabilia and will pay you top dollar for them. House calls made for large collections in the tri-state area. Call or email generationrecords@gmail.com and follow them on Facebook and Instagram.
Will that be cash or in debt?
Do you mean debit?
Yes. Sorry. Another eternally satisfied customer.
Yo, what's happening? I'm out here at one of our all-ages Sunday matinees on the Bowery. I hope that you are enjoying today's show. I just want to let you know that the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live needs your support. Please step up. There is a Patreon page that has a lot of unique program. Shows are announced there first. Lots of good stuff. There's a PayPal address right there on the screen if you want to make a contribution. There's also a super chat function. You could do that. But the bottom line is this show exists because of your support. We're going to be doing it for a long, long time. Thank you for all your support through the years. Back to the show.
Conditioned by indoctrination, conditioned by society. You're a victim of the digital age, a 21st century casualty. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Conditioned by misinformation, it's just the media telling us lies. Decipher fiction from the truth, society's slow and tragic demise. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Everyone's got their
Lord, my phone is blowing up. Welcome back. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Always macking, never lacking, and constantly chump slapping. Hey, it's the Al Baril Tribute Show, paying homage to our old friend. Couple quick things. I just want to mention some upcoming shows. Hold on, get rid of that. Let's add that. In a couple days, Greg Smith will be on the show celebrating the release of the London 77 book that I just put out, that I'm a big part of, that is shipping now. That's happening this Sunday. Super excited about that. Wednesday, April 23rd is Chris Golis from Bulldozer. From Bulldoze. Dez, speaking of Black Flag, Misfits, Astral Jets, and Bob Lee are on Wednesday, April 30th. Yo, we're doing a new music show Wednesday, May 7th with Chris from Crazy in the Brains and Greg from Death Before Dishonor. Freddie Madball coming on, celebrating the release of True to the Game, the Roadrunner years. Sunday, May 11th, Chris Beatty, formerly of Hatebreed, will be on Sunday, May 18th. A side trip, and I'm excited about this one, something a little bit different. Michael Falzerano will be on the show. Of course, he was in the New Riders of the Purple Sage, Hot Tuna, the Englishtown Project, and then Don Caprio will be on, along with actor Louis Lombardi. You probably saw him on The Sopranos, 24 and Suicide Kings, talking about their new film, Director's Cut. Just want to mention Patreon and supporting the show. You enjoy the show, please support the show. It's the only way that we can exist. Be an enabler. There's the Patreon page. That is the best way to support the show. I want to shout out Bazooka Joe, Daniel Mendez, and Shannon Mulligan, new patrons. Please, there's also a Patreon page. There's a PayPal address on there. And there is a super chat function. If you have a question or if you want to just make a one-time contribution, do it. Super chat. It comes through in color. Ask a question. You go to the front of the line. Hey, pick up your communication device. If you're new to the show, please follow the show at Stone Films NYC. And right now, do not hesitate. Please give the show a thumbs up, a like. I am told that this is an important thing to do. Give the show a like. And if you're watching the show on rerun on YouTube, please subscribe to the Stone Films NYC page. That said, let's clear the deck and let's make a bit of a run at it. Hold on a second. Who's blowing me up? Hold on a second. Everybody wants to come on the show now, right? Let's bring back on Jamie and Chris Foley. Yeah, Ian set it off, man. Now I got like everybody like, yo, send me the link. I want to come on. You know?
Yeah, Glennie Friedman just texted me. Hey, I'm watching live.
Oh, he texted you too?
Yeah.
So I sent Glenn the link. So Glenn, if you want to come on, let us know.
Awesome.
That said, let's bring on a friend of ours, a special guest, incredible supporter of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from Judge, Mike Judge. Hey, buddy.
What's up, guys?
Hey, man.
How are you?
How are you?
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
What's going on, Mike?
Nothing, man. Just watching, listening.
Dude, that time we came to the Middle East to see you guys play, me, Chris, you were there too, I believe. Yeah. Dude, Al had such a great time. That was one of the first times that him and I had been, he was out seeing music, I think, at least with me. And man, he just had such a great time. Thought you guys were so great. That was a really fun night.
I mean, that was a great night for me, man, because I think that's the first time I met him.
Okay.
And I've seen SSD from the very beginning, like the Christmas shows with the Bad Brains, all those old shows. But I never got to meet the guy, and then getting to meet him that night was awesome. And then his merch game was on point because he was giving me bags of stuff.
Yeah. He was one generous dude, man.
Yeah. I wasn't so generous because I got back in the van and everyone's like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Alberil gave me some stuff." And they're like, Purcell was like, "Let me get that straight edge hat." I'm like, "No, man, Alberil gave this to me." That's right.
It was so funny for a moment there. It was like when worlds collide. It's like Al in his merch game and Ian in his non-merch game.
Yeah.
It was two polar opposites. I
was like that night because Joe Nelson was talking to me and he's like, Al's going to come out and we don't know how long he's going to hang out for, so he wants to meet you. I was like, are you for real? Like, this is fucking pressure's on, like it was crazy. And then he wound up like staying for our set and shit. It was like,
yeah,
there's so much I wanted to say, put it that way.
Hey, Mike, I know one thing that you and I have in common is that both of us cite Get It Away. Like, a lot of times I'll keep it in the eye. People, what's your favorite hardcore record? And, I've arrived at my stock question is SSD Get It Away. And I know you and I have discussed that record quite a bit. Could you give us some perspective on just what SSD Control, SSD, and Kids Will Have This Thing and Get It Away kind of meant to you coming up?
Yeah, like where I grew up, there was only like a handful of us. And there was this girl who was into it, and she was like, writing people, pen pals with Discord people. So we got all those records quick. I think that's how I got Kids. And no offense to Ian, I was never a Minor Threat guy. It was always like that Kids Will Have Their Say record was something. And it was great. But everything changed for me when I got Get It Away. Because I don't know, there was something about that. Everything about the way I got that record. I bought that record at Newberry Comics with a friend's mom drove us up there, and I wound up getting it. I think Anastas was actually working there.
Yeah.
So I bought like Unsafe at Any Speed, Get It Away, and DOS all at the same time. And I walk outside and it's like, hey man, that's the dude who just sold me the record. It was like everything was great, special. And then when I brought that record home, I don't know, man. It was just the way I look at it. There's like probably two important records in my life: the Damaged record, and then there's all these other records, and then Get It Away. When I listened to Get It Away, I was like, oh, so I get to fight back. I get it now. Like that record was everything.
Yeah. 100%. And the Damaged record too. That record was huge, right, Jamie? That record was huge in our world, right? When Damaged came out, that was
I mean when that came out, being at Newbury Comics and just being blown away.
Yeah. Any while we're here, Chris, any perspective you can lend us on Get It Away? Any memories of sort of recording it, or did you feel good about it, or could you give us anything on this?
I think it, like Jamie had said before, the first record was really, the recordings were kind of scattered and the mixing and such, whereas this record was much more focused. And I think it sounds that way. I think it has a totally different sound than the first record. And I think that, I'm really happy with the remastering of it. I think that it captured a lot more of the bass, the low end of it, and the full sound of it. And I really feel like that our sound developed, and this is what it developed into. And I definitely remember like Springer having, handwritten signs in front of him, like, sing loud or like be angry or different. He definitely had different things in front of him in the vocal booth, and it was definitely more like a band going in, knowing what we were doing. Not really, but we did. It just felt more representative of what we were doing sound wise. And it was always hard in the studio to get a sound that felt like what we were doing live. It's just almost too much to capture. So you just got to come up with, the piece of art that you make in the studio that day,
Well, that was always the knock, right, Jamie? It was like with SSD Control, it was like you'd see SSD Control live, and it was incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
How do you wrestle that beast to the ground and commit it, to vinyl?
Yeah, I always said, we were a live band. To really appreciate us, you had to see us. And yeah, vinyl seldom captures the energy of a band. I mean, it's happened a few times, but yeah, I mean, I was pretty happy. I got to say, when this record came out, I was pretty happy with the way it sounded. I mean, it was years later that people would tell me about how, dude, that record was so different than anything that ever came out at that time. And, I didn't maybe recognize, how other people saw it. But as far as, within the band, I was fairly satisfied with it. I mean, I still didn't think it captured us live, but what was going to do that, really?
Yeah. Yeah, it was my one not listen, I love the record, but it was just I wanted more. Like I wish it was like 8 30-second songs. It was like and one cover, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was perfect.
Yeah.
I thought it was perfect. Yeah. I always wondered what the writing process was like. Like, did he come in with these guitar parts for the song Get It Away? Like, how was it put together? Sometimes I listen to him like, God damn, this is fucking probably the greatest fucking song ever written. Just from beginning to end, those parts, amazing.
What
was the process? Go ahead.
Usually Al would come in with a bunch of riffs, and we would, put them together. I mean, I remember in particular, if you're talking about Get It Away, I remember that, saying, "Oh, we need something at the front. We need an intro." And I came up with that like kind of reggae style, little bass line thing. But yeah, usually the process of our writing was, and correct me if you remember it differently, Chris, but Al would come down. I can envision it too, being in that basement, and Al be standing on one side. I always stood on the side with Springer. Chris was in the middle, and Francois later on would be on my side as well. Al was always by himself, but he would come in with a bunch of riffs, and he would teach them to we'd play them and we'd learn them, and of course it was all about what Chris did with it. I mean, that really kind of formed the nucleus of the song. I mean, there was the riffs, but once Chris put the beat to it, that was when the songs came together. But yeah, I mean, that was Al, it's no secret. Al wrote all the lyrics, or almost all of them, as well as, the music. And he would just come in, he'd say, I did this, I learned that, and, they would make no sense.
That was the thing. They made no sense. So I also love that though, especially because I was going to Berkeley at the same time. And here comes this guy who has no musical background. He doesn't know the cycle of fives and all those chord progressions he's supposed to know as a guitar player. He just knows what he likes. So, he comes in grinding out these chords. And, I remember sometimes I'd be like, Al, that's like 7. That's like 9 beats in the bar. I don't know what you're doing here. So there'd definitely be like kind of a little bit of arranging that would go on. And I think we kind of did that as a band, probably mostly Jamie and I would work with him to get it to be a song where all the parts are together. I felt like we kind of all worked on that. But yeah, and riffage for him was chords. It was block chords, and the way he was strumming guitar, Mike, was definitely different than a lot of other people when you saw him do it. And it's incredibly hard to mimic, actually, if you go back and try to play the guitar the way that Al played it. Good luck, because it was very unorthodox,
Hey, Jamie, do you know where this picture's from, Jamie?
I think that's the time we played with the Dead Kennedys at the Metro. Yeah. I know that because I got those Rector skate shorts on, and I get a lot of shit for those because they're so goddamn short.
It is because I see John Skirimbis right above Spring Azar, who co-produced the show with Alec Peters, and of course, John Skirimbis was around early on and did some stuff, and that was a crazy show.
That was crazy, man.
Do you remember? It was you and Al made me go out. Do you remember? You guys
the night before when we went skateboarding. You talking about that?
No, it was like when they were not showing up, and you're like, you need to go talk to the crowd. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that, but I believe it.
Yeah, it was like, Drew, you need to go talk to them, and I had to go out and be like, well, the Dead Kennedys are running late or something, and people were ready to tear the place apart, man.
Yeah. There's a few of those shows where bands showed up crazy late. I mean, the most famous being the Maverick show when the Bad Brains showed up at 1 a.m.
Jeez.
Were you at that show, Drew?
Yeah. I remember seeing that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they came because they did the pop parade in New York, and they drove up after. But this is the same show, the Dead Kennedy show, and right there I am getting ready to launch myself. Right. Man, those were intense shows, man. I was ready to launch. Look at a bot on that kid too, huh? It's like
kind of ripped there, huh?
Ooh. Listen, 19 years old, right? That said, I want to bring another friend of ours on who is over in the. I think he's in. Are you in Norway? No. Let's bring on from Oxbow and Whipping Boy, our good friend and supporter, Eugene Robinson. What's up, bro?
Hey.
Yeah. It's so nice.
Man.
Hey, how are you? How are you?
Good, man.
I wish we were meeting under better circumstances, but this is nice. I haven't. I don't think I've ever talked to Jamie face to face, though I did enjoy our email exchanges when you were trying to keep me from getting sued. I almost think I imagined that. Did that really happen? Actually, do you remember that?
I'm not recalling it. Remind me.
Okay, you don't want me to put you on Front Street. All right. I was pretty vocal about Billy Rowan owing me all that money that he owed me. My world is bordered around by complaining about money, and I was doing it online. Apparently, somebody had told you, who's this fucking? We're gonna sue this guy. He's slandering Billy, and so you kind of back channeled and told me, hey man, you might want to ease up. Which is, of course, the exact wrong things to say to me, and I.
Yeah, I don't think that was me. I wouldn't have said that.
It was somebody it was one of you. That's all.
I know.
Hey, where are you, Eugene?
I'm in Duisburg, Germany, and I was. The show went a little bit late, and I was like, "Yo, I gotta go." And I told people what I was doing, and I hobbled out because I got some surgery coming up, but I'm on tour anyway. And I left and showed up to hear Ian. You should have told him about that $100. I'll pay him back for it someday. He was complaining about it recently.
Once Ian comes on, forget it. The horses are.
The only way, if you had Ian and Biafra on, we could all just go home. That would be
right. Hey, give us some perspective, Eugene. What SS Decontrol meant to you? I know you were a huge supporter, of the band early on, and you were on the front line. We've talked often about, the Staten Island riot and this and that, and you were on the front line. What did SSD mean to you back then?
Well, Al was. It must be strange to people who are living in this internet world, but in those days, you want to put together a tour. I had stolen credit cards to make phone calls, and it was mostly through letter writing, right? So I found in Al, a guy who had an appreciation for the written word, and he is the one who hooked us up with our first or second couple of Boston shows. He introduced me to Kozloy, the guys in Negative FX, to Who's the Cat from Choke from Slapshot.
Yep.
They're all guys who I met through Al. And the funny thing is, it's weird the way this works. I'll give you a weird example, right? I'm moving to Spain in June, and one of the things I'm having to do is having to rehome all of my firearms. All right, and just bear with me here for a second because I can't take them to Spain, right? I used to have an FFL, a federal firearms license. So I got all these guns, and I'm looking at the guns one day, and I realized that every single one of those guns has a cinematic corollary. I was like, it never dawned on me at the time. Like, I got Dirty Harry's gun. I got all the guns from Taxi Driver. I thought it was accidental, right? So when I look at who I really bonded with in hardcore back in those days, I look at John Messias in LA from Circle One, Mark Dagger from San Francisco, even though, he's got weird political sympathies. Yeah, there you go. And I think it was like people use shock troops, but they think about guys with pink mohawks. But I think always, and this is coming from a guy who later ended up being a bouncer, but I just found myself gravitating toward, guys who look like lifted weights, and guys who look, and Al was one of those guys. But what was amazing about SSD is that there was no kind of macho ideation, which was really unusual. I'm a New Yorker, but I, came of age in California, and it was always, maybe transported by Rollins. It was this kind of machismo thing, and Al was, big guy, but I didn't get that from the band at all, and I thought it was really pretty fucking magical that they could just, through the power of expression, stake a claim to having all this emotional content and not having it be like, I'll kick your ass. That just wasn't part of the thing. And I think the last time I talked to Al, I was writing an article. I wanted to talk to Springer because Rollins had come to me and he'd said, hey, fucking Springer just saw some guy get stoned to death. I go, you mean he was hot? No. He was in a clearing in the woods in Massachusetts, and he saw some guy, people in robes. And I go, this is incredible. But I kept the story in my head for years. And finally, I just had to call Al. I said, do you know if this is true or not?
Oh, my God.
And Al goes, nah, Springer would know. And I go, okay, put me in touch with Springer. And Al was like, I could just feel him on the other end of the phone kind of go, like he didn't want me talking to Springer for some reason. And he's like, and he's trying to prepare me for talking to Springer, And I was like, no, it's okay, man. I'm just on background. I want to take a few notes. I think this is a great story. I want to use it somehow. And so he goes, okay. And he kind of gave me a few cautions. And so I called Springer and he told me the story and it was perfectly okay. But I thought, isn't it funny? I mean, I must have been about 50 then that Al was like, watching out for me. And the occasion in which we got back in touch was this New York beef that you were talking about, because it was with Harley. And I've been like, somehow latter day ended up being a peacemaker. Like for years, I tried to get Harley and John Joseph back together. It was just stupid. And John finally said to me, Eugene, I love you, but I'm never going to do this. So I was like, okay, fuck, I'll stop. And in this case, Harley and Al shouldn't have been fighting at all, right? I mean, Harley was just being Harley, talking about, when the Boston guys came down. And this was part of it, was that the DC guys treated the New York guys like shit. And so the New York guys, when the Boston guys came down with kind of a DC thing happening, the New York guys were like, what the fuck is this? In actual fact, DC treated both Boston, Ian notwithstanding, treated both Boston and New York like step brothers, like younger kid brothers. And, I think Harley had to a certain degree had enough of it. And, being a black belt in jiu-jitsu now, yeah, it makes you loose at the mouth. So I tried to play peacemaker there, and I finally kind of like Ian was like, yo, bro, this shit is so long ago. Nobody cares. Just stop.
Yeah.
Let me ask you now, but I got Harley to back off. So
hey, Nancy. Hi, Nancy. You're muted. Unmute yourself. Somehow you've muted yourself.
Yeah, this happens to me all the time. Don't worry. Yeah. Well, I got in touch with Nancy again because through some internet squabble over that Staten Island show and the SSC T-shirts. And
are you talking about this? This is a picture I took in 19. This Paramount Staten Island show.
That one, man. Yeah. I think if you look, you'll actually see Boobie's car in there somewhere too. I think like right up in front of that the street side. That's
for
funny.
those out there that are not familiar with this show right here descended into an utter melee between, dare we say it, Eugene, between like the punks and the Cougines.
Yeah, the Cougines. Well, it was right. They were talking to Lazar and said something to her that was kind of salty, and she didn't like it. And she had this chain belt, and she took it off and she whipped the guy across the face. And as far as I know, that was the beginning.
I haven't heard Lazar's name spoken in a long time.
I missed her, man.
She was great.
Yeah,
what a wild woman.
Yeah, so the guy, he got whipped in the face. He ran off to the pizza parlor, came back with a broomstick that was screwed loose from the base and threw it at her like a spear. And it went into the store window. And then that was that was pretty much, that was.
I was at that show.
You were at that show?
Yeah, because I'm from Jersey, right? And the two guys I was with, we could have drove our fucking car to fucking Staten Island and got home. But we're like, no, man, we got to be with the New York guys. We're going to take the ferry. And we were stuck there, man. Fucking just everybody coming out of every fucking nook and cranny, throwing shit.
Yep. Yeah, you should have got on Boobie's station wagon. That's how we got back to the ferry.
I took a couple pictures that night, but interestingly enough, this is a photo I took that night of Al, like just random photo I took. I don't know why or what possessed me to shoot a picture of my friends, but it's Al and Pat,
Mike Dean
from Gang Green in front, and Pat Rafferty next to Al.
Yeah,
you know.
Great.
Somebody just said 95% of the audience is looking up what a cougine is.
It's got to be everybody under 40. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Cougine, basically, if you watch the beginning of Saturday Night Fever, that's cougine. Yeah.
But I mean, Al over the years, and I think I'd written about SSD to a certain degree because I've made my living as a journalist, and what I said that kind of got his ear was that I thought that How We Rock was a superlative record. And there I am with me and Dave Dichter and Jimmy Gestapo. Well, I guess he's no longer Gestapo, right? Yeah. But I said that my understanding of the audience was that they should have been willing to go along with SSD at that point. And it was significant because that was right at the point where, bands are trying to decide, do I stick with this hardcore thing or do I do the music that's in my head? And some people got out, some people were kind of never in, like the Butthole Surfers were never really in, but they were there, but they were way out there. And I thought, if you're an SSD fan, what you're willing to do is trust the, artistic aesthetic acumen that they're going to take you to a place that's fucking cool. And Al, I hadn't heard from him in a long time. He read it and wrote back to me. He goes, "Thank God somebody gets it." I go, "Yeah, we went through that whole thing too." I'm not getting off of it. That Whipping Boy's second record was not a hardcore record. I delivered 350 of them to Rough Trade. They called me back 37 minutes later and said, "Could you get 325 of them?" Gotta be able, and I rode up on my motorcycle with all these records, so I had to go get them. It was a drag, But I thought the same thing, that you trust in the band, you trust where they're going to go. So I understood conceptually. I thought I understood conceptually exactly what was happening with How We Rock, and it's actually one of my favorite records because not a lot of people, whatever. You make your own life choices, but it's nice to see people who were in hardcore and what they do with the music and all that energy going forward, like Fugazi or whatever else, or this record. I was actually at Maximum Rock and Roll when they fucking reviewed it, and I think that was probably the beginning of my time stopping hanging out with those guys, because I thought it was a short-sighted analysis, and whatever.
Jamie has just, we're going to bring Nancy back on in a sec, but just while we're kind of here, how has this aged for you, How We Rock, Chris or Jamie? I mean, there's people that friggin' love this record, and there's people that, that don't love this record.
Yeah, I mean, I don't listen to a lot of SSD very often, so I haven't listened to this in quite a while. But I do remember when it came out, I was like pretty proud of it. I thought it was, it was just the next step. It wasn't, we definitely were not trying to make a change, a conscious effort to change in any way. It was just, like Eugene said, it's just kind of what was in our heads, and that's what we played.
Yep.
And I definitely, in listening to it now, I'm like, hey, that record isn't all that bad. What do you mean? I think that when you listen to it, it actually, like Eugene said, it's kind of a progression. But it's interesting with this album cover because, Al talked about it, and it was a joke that almost looked too good. So people didn't really get it because the How We Rock is kind of that beginning of people going, we rock. They're kind of thumbs up, like, yeah, we rock.
That's right.
It's how we rock. And if you look at the back, Al said, I want the back of the album to look like AC/DC's, the one with the cannon on it.
Those About to Rock.
Yeah, the gold album.
Yeah. For those About to Rock.
Look at the back of that album and look at the back.
They're almost identical.
It's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that was his fucking joke. He was like, hey, we're being a rock band. Look, nobody picked up on the fact that it is exactly the same, like the layout and the lettering and the gold color. It is AC/DC's record.
But I didn't even need to have him explain that to me. It was like, I was like, maybe it's a joke, maybe it's a piss take, maybe it's real. Doesn't matter. This is the music. Right?
Let me bring Nancy back on. Hey, Nancy.
Hey there. Can you hear me now?
Nancy.
And I just want to say, about that record, when I post that now on social media, people get that record now. Eugene, you were one of the first to get it, but people do get it now. Yeah. And that makes me really, really happy about it. And so when that cover was because Al drove across country in like 2 days, because that's how he did things. And that's all he saw. And so it was, it was generic to everybody else, but to Al, it was what was in his head, so got that. And I just wanted to, clarify too. And I think Chris and Jamie, you can back me up on this. None of us ever really knew that New York hardcore, Boston hardcore beef. Like there was always a physical, competitive, fun thing going on, but it wasn't really until years later when one of my students called me, and there was a podcast with JJ on it, and he said he like punched Al in the face at a Bad Brain show, and Al was like, that never happened, And then Tony Retman, I remember, read me an excerpt from Harley's book saying somebody punched Al in the face, and Al said, I would admit it if it happened, but it just never happened, And so it was just kind of weird because Jamie and Chris, I think you can back it up. When you guys played New York, and I was at almost every show, except maybe that first one, the A7 one, I wasn't there. New York treated you guys great. It was like your second home.
So,
Totally.
There was just one show, the Rock Hotel show.
The Rock Hotel, yeah.
Right, where things were a little funky. Like, I guess people had been around in the afternoon, and there was a show. And
a lot of drinking and stuff. So I
was at that show also.
You were there?
I was at that show. I think it started the afternoon. I think.
Well, there was a CBGB show.
CBGB show. Yep.
Yeah, I think Jerry's Kids, a couple other bands. I think it was like it was a carryover to the Rock Hotel.
That's right.
And that was definitely the case. And I remember years later, Jonathan telling me that he got punched in the face. Well, I'm from Philly. If somebody didn't throw a bomb at you or stab you, or you didn't get hit with a lead pipe, like, it's a good night. Like a punch in the face, shake that shit off.
This was, I do believe that this was the last time I ever saw SSD Control play, Jamie and Chris. And this was a great show. You guys, I remember you guys, I think, didn't you do like Alice Cooper I'm 18 or Walking in the Sand and it was at the Rock. This was the original Rock Hotel on J Street. And it was a great room, man. That was a great room. And this was a great show. And it was the last time I ever saw you play, because once you guys kind of went to like this stuff, I don't think you guys ever came back to New York and played again, right?
Nope.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I think that Rock Hotel show was the last show in New York.
So I never saw you towards the end or when you were full on kind of doing the rock thing. Like, I never saw that. I don't have that memory. I don't have that reference point. Like, every SSD or SSD Control, SSD show I ever saw was great. I mean, not that the later ones were bad. I just didn't see them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even remember like playing a lot of shows, you know, when that last record came out. I mean, I remember the last show we played at Suffolk University, but I can't remember many other shows, you know, real, you know, late shows.
Yeah, maybe one at the Channel. I think, you know, there was a good one at the Channel, you know, and it was one of those situations where you guys were always playing the next album ahead, you know, and people were like, get it away, you know.
Yeah, that's a mistake we used to make. Yeah,
exactly.
Like, oh, fuck the old stuff. Let's play the new stuff because we like.
Yeah. And speaking of what Eugene mentioned, this is just another Phil and Flash shot, and I mean this one just takes your breath away. You know, SSD at the A7. And I don't even know if this one's ever been seen because I got the whole roll, but you could see Eric Casanova, the original singer for the Cro-Mags, sitting in front of the stage, and him and Harley had Cro-Mags written across their forehead, and you see Dr. No, right, Jamie, right at your headstock is Dr. No. You know?
Now, I don't know if I've ever told the story, but you know, when we got to the A7, we're hanging out front. I'm making up set lists with a magic marker, and Harley and Eric are sitting there on the curb, just fucking cracking us up. I mean, they were just so funny. And Harley says, "Hey, give me that marker," and he writes Cro-Mags on Eric's head, and then Eric turned to him and he wrote it on Harley's head with that marker. Yeah, and then they proceeded to sit on the stage for the whole fucking show, and we had never seen that before. Like kids sitting on the edge of the stage made no sense to us. So I'm kicking them off. I'm trying to and fucking Eric Casanova turns around and punches me so hard in the fucking thigh, like I got a Charlie horse in my thigh. It was crazy.
Remember that, Mike? When people would just hang out on stage.
I don't even remember a stage at A7. I think it was just like a little platform for the drums or some shit.
It was a little.
When I played A7, it was like 18 little trainer amps stacked on top of each other. That was like.
Hey, a friend of ours wants to pop on real quick and say hello. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, Roger Moret. What's up, Roger?
What's going on, everybody?
Hey, man.
I've been trying to pop in, but I've been so busy waiting for my kids now from school. So,
another jiu-jitsu player. It makes me happy to see you, bro. We got to roll.
Yeah, we will someday.
Hey, Roger, could you give us any perspective or any thoughts on Al, SSD Control? I know you love the band.
Oh yeah, man. Obviously, it's no secret. Me and Vinny been saying it forever, for years, that as inspiration, SSD Control was our main inspiration for Agnostic Front, especially Al for Vinny on guitar, and I always loved Springer. You know, like SSD Control was my band. You know, like. So much, you know. I've said it hundreds of times, many interviews. I think there's even something out there where I said if I was stuck in an island, the kids would have to say would be stuck with me. You know, it's like huge inspirational band for myself. It's really sad, you know. Al was a good guy. He was a fighter. I'll tell you that much. And it's sad, you know. It's really sad. We're all getting old, you know, and. It's not even fun to get on Facebook or anything anymore. In fact, I've been avoiding social media for a good month on this last tour. Not only did Al pass away, I had 5 friends pass away. 5. Wow. Within a month. You know, 2 were suicides, 2 were cancer, and another one was an old friend that nobody knows. So it's kind of, you know, it's kind of hard. It used to be great. I remember Facebook was great, catching up with everybody. Yeah, you know. But we hit an age where I don't know, man. I think I want to go back in hiding.
It's crazy.
But yeah, I love SSD Control, and inspirational is everything. You know?
And it was so fun to get to play Glue with you guys. You know.
Oh, that was incredible. That was incredible.
That was so awesome, man.
And
Twice.
I see you. You guys are so small. I'm trying to see. I see you, Chris. I see you, Jamie, there. And
Good to see
Nancy, I
you.
saw you before. I said hello. But it's everything's so little. I'm on my phone. But yeah, I'm telling you, you know, and I keep talking about that when we did Glue at Bridge 9 and the rest of Victim Pain. That was phenomenal. But when Chris got back there and did the drums, I never knew how complicated and how incredible the drums were in that song.
Yeah, neither did
I'm
I.
still blown away.
Thank you.
It's like a whole different level of appreciation. Like I was like, wow, blown away. I had to do it twice. It was so good.
Yeah, we had to do it. Had to do it twice. I don't know if I could do it 5 times, but I think I could do it twice.
We got
sure.
2. We got 2 out of you. I came back home sick too. I got this bronchitis thing. But I'm glad you guys are all there. Eugene, I'm glad everybody's there. Everybody's healthy and happy. Yeah. And unfortunately, you know, we're all brought together by this circumstances, you know, but we're all here for a good reason, to celebrate life.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Raj. And let you go on your way. But thank you for stopping by, bro. We love you, man.
Okay, love you, Nancy.
Bye bye. Love you too.
My biggest condolences.
Thank you.
Bye bye,
thank you.
guys.
Yeah, all right, Raj.
We love that guy.
Yeah, he's great. And that meant a lot to Al. Hearing what Vinny and Roger said, I mean, it really meant a lot to Al back, you know, when he first heard it, he was like, wow, I never even really knew that, you know?
Yeah.
What if you 5 minutes looking at Agnostic Front, and I could like draw the lines. It was always pretty clear. It was wonderful. Yeah. I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, I did one of Agnostic Front's first shows was Buff Hall, and John Watson was singing then.
Yep.
And you know, Vinny was just a character, but you know, I'm glad that he took inspiration and made it into a career. It's pretty fabulous.
You know it's pretty wild to see Eric Casanova, because the last time before he became a holy man that I saw him, he came up to me at CB's and was like, "Yo, Eugene." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I work with your mom." My mother's a social worker. What are you talking about? He was one of her clients. It was pretty wild to have that small world connection.
Yeah, there it is, Buff Hall. That's a Buff Hall shot.
Look right under Al's elbow. You see me smiling right there underneath.
And you know who's at Al's knee? That's Chris Praz, who later went on to play an Antidote, play drums.
Yep. And right behind Al's leg is John Watson is right there.
Yeah.
And Michelle, and that was
Michelle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I was going Linda. No, it's Michelle.
The girl with the shaved head.
Yeah.
Buff
Incredible
Hall.
show.
I mean, Buff Hall was that in Trenton or Camden?
Camden.
Yeah.
Camden, yeah, I was a little jaded back then and didn't, you know, think too much about putting on a show in the most violent city in the United States at the time.
Right.
And I remember Al telling me, you know, I got nice equipment, I got nice stuff. Don't bring me to a war zone. I was like, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. You know, we weren't even there 5 seconds before Ian got hit by a car. Al's van practically got totaled. Kids were getting jumped and beat up, and we had to get the Ghetto Riders were a motorcycle club right next door. They had their clubhouse. They demanded entry, and they took pity on us. My girlfriend Allison and I, and they said they put out on the street that it was a Ghetto Riders party that night at Buff Hall, and then all the attacks stopped. But I really think that the chaos of that night up the energy on all the bands. I don't know if you guys, you know, Chris and Jamie can back me up on this, but man, everybody brought their A game. And I would have to say that has to be one of the best hardcore shows of all time, with Minor Threat, AF, Crib Death, Flag of Democracy, SSD. It was just, wow.
I just remember it was like bursting. The whole place was just like packed and just bursting, you know?
And that neighborhood hasn't changed one iota in 35. There's certain places, you know, Patterson, New Jersey, you know, Trent. These places have not changed at all in 40 years.
And it's funny, Buff Hall actually started following me on Instagram, and I was like so honored. You know, I was like, wow, this is really cool. They had done over the inside, and they have like baby showers there and stuff now. And I think the area might have changed a little tiny bit better. I don't know if that I would go. It's no Kensington. Let's just say that. Okay.
the infamous Kensington.
Yeah.
That said, let's march on. Hey, no, they're chiming in. Sorry, I didn't mean to disrespect Patterson. Anybody out there? Everybody's chiming in now. Nancy, let me march on. I'll bring you back in a minute.
Sure.
All right. Mike, as we move forward, anything as far as SSD and Al Baril and his legacy? Any thoughts on that?
I mean,
and let me just say, and also one thing we didn't touch on is the straight edge thing at all.
Yeah, I mean, I was like kind of on that trip before I knew what straight edge was, because just the way my family was growing up, I was trying to not be like that. I mean, when I heard those that SSD record, I made a decision that I don't have to, like, I can fight back now. So, I mean, that dude gave me my voice. I don't know what else to say. Like, I have all these, like, Judge was just down in Florida, and I remember Al posted this thing, and it was like it really seemed like dire and shit. So I wrote like this whole thing, and then I was like, oh man, maybe this is too sappy. Maybe it's sad or something. Maybe I should. And so I didn't send it. And then like the next day, Purcell walks in and goes, "Did you hear?" And I was like, I felt like it was just like, I felt so weak. Like, why didn't I just send it? I just want them to know like how important that those words, those songs, those records are to me.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Mike.
And I would like to think that time I spent in Boston that night, I mean, Hank said that it was a good deal for him and made him happy. So I hope that's true.
Oh, absolutely. He and I,
Nance?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. I want you to know that he definitely knew. He absolutely knew, and it meant a lot to him. So, and at that point, it wasn't long after he made that post that they put him on Comfort Care. So he probably, I might have been able to read it to him, because they say that, you can still, they can still hear the cry. But he knew, and he appreciated it. He appreciated your friendship. He appreciated hanging out that night and everything. So know that.
Thanks, Nance. Yeah. Thanks, Nance. See you in a minute. Mike, thank you for coming on, man. Appreciate
it. Brother. Thank you.
Let's talk soon, and good luck out there with your shows, man.
Okay. Thank you, brothers.
Talk to
Thanks,
you.
Mike.
Great to see you, Mike.
Take care, man. I
tell you what, Mike Judge has the ability, every time he comes on the show, he makes me cry.
Yeah,
I mean that in an incredible, heartfelt way.
He's a real dude for sure.
Every time he comes on, like, he fucks me up.
Yeah.
Eugene, any perspective that you could give us on sort of Al's legacy and SSD?
It's weird. A couple of times over the years, some friends of mine, I'm thinking of Booby, who had been a drummer for Anti-Warfare in New York, guys like that. They've come up, and they've all gone on to do great things. And they said, or Steve, the guitar player for Whipping Boy, said to me, "You feel like they were somehow feeling like they had failed." And I said, "Because what? You're not dead? No. We this is the apotheosis of what hardcore was supposed to be." He's like, "Well, what do you mean?" It's like, "Well, my last job was as a vice president at some ad agency. And, they don't know where you've come from necessarily and what you've done. But I think that many times I've been in meetings and somebody has said something, and it's just the hardcore guy in me coming out like, that's asinine." And actually, sadly discovered that those words really did come out of my mouth, But it is a lifelong kind of perspective and an attitude and an approach to reality. And I was glad to see, when reading all the tributes to Al, that he had moments like that at where is he? He's working at GE GE, I think, where he was just like, yeah, if I came up the way you guys came up, maybe I would just take this on the chin, but fuck you. And that's been that's pretty much been my ethos. And then I see a lot of guys who are bending and changing and trying to figure, but the people who stick true to what it is they're doing and attitudinally are the same. For me, it affects my daily living in a way that nothing else I've ever done has. So, and like I was talking to Roger about, I'm obsessed with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I'm 7 days a week doing this. And I still, one of my get hype tapes, like those exist. Playlist, I guess now it's got tons of SSD on it. So I have you all to thank. And the funny thing is, I was more concerned, like the fact that Ian didn't drink or smoke or take drugs, didn't interest me as much as the fact that he was eating hamburgers and candy bars and drinking soda all the time. So I was like kind of a natural fit for the whole straight edge thing. But I was in California and acid was very cheap, so I was still exercising all through that and being laughed at by guys like Tim Yohannan for being a jock. But whatever, I'm doing shows still. I guess I'm healthy enough. But Al signed on to all that, and I was pretty happy about his involvement later in my life.
Glenn E. Friedman just sent me a picture that I've never seen. This is from the Paramount show that we were all at.
Oh,
right?
shit.
I've never seen this picture.
I've never seen it either.
Man.
Yeah, look at that, huh?
That's cool, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the first time I met Glenn. I was a skateboarder, so I knew who he was. But I remember he came up to me at that show, and he's like, "Hey, I'm Glenn Friedman." I'm like, "Fuck, man! Holy shit! I know who you are." And he's like, "I'm going to shoot you guys tonight." I'm like, I was fucking honored, man. I was just so excited about that.
Yeah. One thing I do remember about this show was being, if you want to call it, backstage, and Jello Biafra, someone stole his contact lens out of his denim jacket. And I'll never forget this. It's just one of those things, right? That who the fuck would steal someone's contact lenses? I mean, and leave the fucking jacket. I mean, what the fuck are they gonna do with like my contact lenses with my prescription? Who does that? What's wrong with this world? And I for some reason I never forgot that Jello ran. But
that was a pretty decent Jello you did there too.
Yeah.
that one's kind of interchangeable. That's like that's like 25 people that but that's it. Hey Eugene, have a great rest of the tour. We love you, man. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having me. See you guys.
Thanks for coming in.
We love that guy.
He's a good guy.
That's good stuff. Hey, we got to bring Joe Nelson from Trust Records is going to come on, and we're going to. I think he has a really special announcement, and we are also going, Jamie. We are going to continue. We're going to continue. We're going to continue with this because we got sidetracked. Okay. So we're going to do that, and there's a couple of other gems that I have. Like to talk about like this. I'm gonna take another break in a second, but I just want to give a little taste here. This was in the incredible Al Baril, massive amount of stuff he sent me. This seems to be the bill from Radio Beat for the Kids Will Have Their Say, and we have to talk about this a little bit for the grand total.
Dude, look, one cassette, 75 cents. That's great.
$65 for 10 hours of studio time.
$10 an hour back then. Holy shit.
Let's get ready for this, kids. I'll see you guys in a minute, all right?
All right.
Okay.
All right. Here you go. We're only getting started now. This is the Al Baril tribute. New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Episode. Lots of great friends coming on. A couple more to come. I'm going to run this other promo here. just so we could all get a breath, and we're going to come back and we're going to run at it some more. This is the Greg Smith book promo. Greg Smith is going to be on the show this Sunday, so check this out. We will be right back. What's happening? This is filmmaker, musician, and the host of the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live, Drew Stone, and I want to talk to you about an incredible project that's near and dear to my heart that's finally coming to fruition after many, many years. I'm talking about London 77, The Lost Archive, the photography of Gregory Rudolph Smith. This is an incredible, never-before-seen look at a musical era that changed the face of modern music. Buried and forgotten for more than 45 years, these incredible photos have thankfully been rediscovered. For 8 months, in 1977 and 1978, Smith documented the golden age of the punk era in London. Never-before-seen photos of Adam and the Ants, Generation X, Susie and the Banshees, Crass, X-Ray Specs, Don Letts, The Slits, and many, many others are documented during this pivotal moment in musical history. I want to give you a little backstory. Greg Smith is a family friend who was my father, who was a film director's cameraman for many years, did many commercials with him. And later on, he was behind the lens during the golden age of music videos when we did some of the great videos of the 90s, like Onyx Slam, Typo Negative Black #1, and Run DMC, Biohazard, Tales from the Hard Side. This incredible archive was buried in a storage unit for decades and heading for the dumpster before Greg gifted them to me. And with the help of Generation Records, we put this project together. This is a rare glimpse into the vibrant time of this embryonic movement, and they have been compiled into a beautiful tabletop book that is now available for the public for the first time. There it is in all its glory. This is important stuff, and we're really excited that the public is finally going to be able to enjoy this incredible archive. I hope that you enjoy this passion project, London 77, The Lost Archive, the photography of Gregory Rudolph Smith, at least half as much as we did putting it together. Thank you. And we're back. It's the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live celebration of the life of our friend and incredibly influential musician, Al Barile. Want to mention a couple of events coming up. Here we go. Sunday, May 3rd, down at Generation Records is the Rebelmatic record release, performance, and show and signing. Sunday, May 4th, free all ages Sunday matinee down at our home at the Bowery Electric. Rampage Fest 7 with Sworn Enemy, Silence Equals Death, Brass Knuckle Brigade, Redwoods, Life of Deceit, and No Comply, and DJ SDK Sound System. Yo, we're all patrons. Attention, all New York Hardcore Chronicles Live patrons. Yo, we're going out on Drew Stone's New York City Cinematic and Music Tour on Saturday, May 10th. It's free for all patrons. If you're not a patron and you'd like to come along, reach out. We got room on the boat for you as well. The tour is ending at Generation Records because we are doing the Greg Rudolph Smith London 77, The Lost Archive book signing and Q&A, all happening the same day. It's going to be a fantastic day. Come on out with us. Walk around in the city, talk music and film, and be a part of a great day. In Tompkins Square Park on Saturday, May 24th, it's our annual Memorial Day weekend show with non-residents Rebelmatic, Butterbrain, End of Hope, and Sonic Bomb. Larry Kelly will be quarterbacking this fantastic show. I will not be there because I will be playing punk rock bowling with Incendiary Device. This show specifically brought to you by our next guest, Joe Nelson, Trust Records, 7 Seconds, Negative Approach, Effigies, Stalag 13, and Incendiary Device. 2 days later, I'm hosting a tour at the Punk Rock Museum. And then Sunday, June 1st, I am getting married on stage at the Bowery Electric. It's free. It's all ages. We are doing the My War thing with loads of special guest singers. It's going to be great. All are welcome. I'm getting married at the Sunday Hardcore Matinee. How about that? That said, let's bring our friends Jamie and Chris back on. Still running at it. Here we go. As we head towards hour number 3. Let's bring on our pal Joe Nelson from Trust. Hey man.
What's up, dudes?
Hey,
how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you guys doing, Chris, Jamie, Drew?
Good,
this is really wonderful. I've been just watching this whole thing today. Thank you so much. You never know what to expect with this stuff, and this has just been mind-blowing special.
Thanks, man. I was a little nervous about this one.
Same. I was nervous for you. I'm like, this is a couple ways, but man, you've done great honor to Al today.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And Nancy just texted me. She said Al would have loved this. So
yeah,
that's a stamp of approval right there.
I got a little nervous. I got a little nervous when Ian, Roger, and Mike Judge are all sending me messages at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you right now, Ian comes first. You did well there.
Yeah.
And then
Ian
I just saw
great.
him last night. I just saw he and Kevin were out here for an event we did and said some really, really wonderful things about Al and some funny things,
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Joe, just give us some perspective. How did you get involved with the, I know you guys are all pals now, and give us a little your take on meeting Al, working with Al, and what it was like with the reissue of the records.
I mean, you want to wrap this up in 30 minutes or like 2 hours, man? It's really an amazing story. It's really the relationship I have with Al and the story of putting out SSD with you guys and stuff, like, it'll stick with me forever as being just such an epic life moment. And it kind of came, it was either 5 years ago or 4 years ago when Trust first started. He came, DM me through Facebook and just was like, hey, this is Al Brill from SSD. How come Trust doesn't want to put out SSD? And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? I didn't know we could. Like, I didn't know that was a thing, because the mythology of Al was he was this kind of mysterious figure who was never going to do it. He was such a purist and he was so protective of SSD that was it. And there was this legendary, like, holy grail that people had chased and no one ever got it. So I didn't try. And plus I also was like, well, and you're also, Al, I feel you're kind of intimidating. And then we started talking. Obviously he's not intimidating at all. It's like, he's just like the most awesome dude. And the conversations, they started trying to negotiate, and then those kind of went off the rails because I love him, but like he's approaching it like a Coca-Cola licensing deal. And like, it was so out of our comfort zone that we were like, I don't know, man, but I'm like you, let's keep talking. And then we would talk. And when I put out releases, I would call him and we would talk about these other releases, and he would ask all these questions from every angle, like dissecting everything we were doing. And I'm like, this guy is more interested in what we're doing than I am. and over the year, this went on for years. I was like, we got to be friends. We didn't talk. We would go months without talking about SSD at all. We just talked about Lakers or Dodgers or Celtics and, sports guy. And just really, to me, and I hope to him too, grew this amazing friendship of just like, if I never put SSD on Trust, that was going to be one of my best friends as long as we were going to be friends. Because I just love talking. I have this routine where I live in LA and my warehouse is down in Santa Ana, or it was until we just recently moved it to Merch now with our bud, Steve Reddy. But it's about an hour commute. And I would be like, all right, it's the morning. I leave early, so it's like 6. And I'm like, oh, I'll just call Al. It's an hour. There you go. And I would talk to Al for an hour about whatever. And then at some point, I guess, beginning of 2022 or 2023, we just made a kind of Matt Pincus, who's the co-founder of Trust, and kind of, pushed the list on the buttons. Yeah, please leave that up, because I do want to talk about this record. We just kind of made him a little bit of a different offer. Like, he was very good at negotiating, and he was very fair, and he was very honest, and we had an honest rapport between us. But we made him one last offer, which is the offer that you guys agreed to, and we were off and running. And it just has been an amazing experience for us. Like, just one of those most humbling things. And like the journey we went on through all of his sickness and this record here and Get Away, it's just been one of the proudest moments of my life. and I think something I would just want to communicate is, Nancy said it best in her eulogy when she was talking about Al earlier. Is, I think of Al as this hardcore pioneer, original seed, the guy, like one of the originals, like 7 or 8 original kind of tribal elders of this hardcore scene. And Al Barile is one of them. And like you said, Drew, a 4-star general pass. It's like a tribal leader, like Ian and Roger Friedman, these guys reaching out to you. They're not reaching out to anyone else. Like, that's how revered Al is and how respected he is in this music. But besides that, it's this fight he had with cancer and how honest he was with us, how open he was. When he posted his last post, I took a screenshot of it and I sent it to Ian, and Ian just said, Al Barile keeping it real to the end. And that's just like, kind of fucking bravo, dude. Like, you are a titan, and I will always remember you, and we all will. And like legacy, like Ian said, it was cemented a long time ago. And if you saw the tributes, the LA Times, Pitchfork, that guy was revered, and he was called a pioneering guitar player. Al Barile. That is the headline.
Yeah.
Can't get much better than that, man. That's a life well lived. So there you go.
He'd have a hard time accepting that. He always on his guitar playing.
Of course.
Yeah.
I said in my little eulogy on Instagram, I've never seen anyone take a compliment worse.
Right?
Than that
Yeah.
dude. And then another thing I think is really important to talk about, like a true leader, because this dude's a true leader. Like, when you have that Kids Will Have Their Say Up There record, he hits on so many levels in a short time. The music that you and Jamie, you and Chris and Al created with Springer, that music, but the aesthetics of this cover right here, there's nothing like it before it, but there's plenty after it. It sits up there with Pink Floyd, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, or a Rolling Stones cover. I mean, it's a classic piece of art. It says everything about this moment in time and you kids. And that's Al Barile. That's him. The aesthetics, like, dude, guys will go to art college forever and not come up with something that and that impactful. And it's true. I mean, who is this dude? And then he's just he's really just an engineer at GE who loves jet skiing.
Right.
God, just an incredible human being, man. Really,
yeah, he was.
I've cried so much over this. It's been such a hard week, and Nancy and I have been back and forth, and I know you guys have. It's just that's how it should be, man. Like, there'll be a time, we're different. He'll always be with me, but that's a loss. That's a loss, not just for everyone personally, but for music and culture and everything. It's just like, that's a titan who left us.
Yeah.
Well, right up to the end, what you were saying when he was sick and the way he would post stuff. I mean, at first when he started posting and he was being the God's honest truth of what was going on when you get cancer. And at first I was like, oh, Al, a little too much. And like Nancy would be, Al, a little too much. But, after it went on and I saw other people who were dealing with cancer responding to what he was saying, he was a honest and true voice like any other when it came to dealing with cancer. Part of me was like, put this all together and you're going to see this person's march through this battle. And that on some level, part of me is like, there's got to be something from that where he gave right up to the end, even with his sickness. He was like, I don't think maybe he didn't know it, but he told his whole story right there. Of course, and that's a remarkable thing.
He's a true leader, because a true leader cares about everyone else, not himself. That's what I just really came to really understand about Al, and just thinking about the humility and the humbleness, and like always thinking about the team. Even when we were in negotiation, I was never talking to you, Chris or Jamie, and I was not talking to Springer. Al was always it was always equal. Spring was 25%. It was always fair and just. It was always, when we were doing negotiation, it was always, okay, I'm good with this, but I'm going to take it to my guys, because at the end of the day, it was what he cared about, the team and the guys, and trust. He cared about, really just would kind of give him shit for it, but he would, we'd have these kind of things we were trying to do with him when he was sick, and it was, sometimes he really was sick and he couldn't do, and he was so apologetic. Like he was like, I'm just letting the team down. I'm just letting the team down. I'm like, Bud, like you are the fucking team, man. Like, but I just, man, just such mad respect for that, because that's a guy who just is leading, visionary, looking outward, caring about your people, the lessons about friendship and respect and just fair justice and like empathy for things. That's why he hates Trump so fucking much. He's the polar opposite of all that. And I want to be on that side of the fence with a guy like Al, you know?
Yeah, he was the quintessential team player for sure.
I was just about to say that
all the time. Yep.
Even when we were kids, right? I mean, when we were young kids, when we were teenagers, it was always with Al. It was always team. It was always it wasn't me or you. It was always us, team, the crew.
Yeah.
How could we can't? You know, he wants to go with us down to DC. We have to make. I remember being packed in that van with fucking 30 people.
It was crazy.
You know?
And like you said at the top of the show, I think he bought that van just for that sole purpose, so we could bring just as many people as possible into his world, which was a blast.
Well, that's why he built your scene. That's why he's considered the architect of the scene, because that's what he cared about.
Yeah.
Most people start a band, they care about themselves. Like, okay, check me out. Al's like, I'm starting this band because I care about building a scene.
Yeah.
That's why the Boston scene is so different and really beautiful. It's like, it's always a crew. The aesthetics are always you guys as a gang. Al's the leader, but it's never just him as an individual. And that's who he is. Like, that's his brand, right? Like he's, you know. Yeah.
Hey, I got a question. You know, I like I said at the beginning of the show, Al sent me this incredible folder of stuff when he came on the show. Like this, like we could do a 10-hour show deciphering everything he sent me. But is this the master tape of Kids Will Have Their Say?
Yeah, man. That is.
Yeah.
What's
Isn't that crazy?
How does this
You're
get
gonna walk
salvaged?
me because
Like I see mold. I see mold on this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's water rusted. It's been it was in his parents' basement, I believe.
Yep.
Now you're in my kitchen because I had to plug in my computer. And yeah, those tapes were the tapes that we sent to this guy Dan Johnson at Audio Archiving, and he restored them. But like those tapes are destroyed, man. Dan Johnson's a wizard to fix those.
I guess so.
And you know what's really interesting, and Jamie, you and Chris, you got to speak to this. As we got those tapes cleaned up, there's like, 3 recordings of Kids Will Have Their Say, like 3 full-on multi-track recordings. Like, someone explain that process.
We just couldn't, you know, we tried and tried. We just couldn't get it right. You know, we just never thought it sounded good.
Yeah.
I remember one of the studios, Oak Grove Recording Studios.
The very first one.
And the studio, it got so hot in the studio that the tape machines started slowing down.
Oh,
it was crazy. It was crazy. It was a crazy session. But didn't that have the first version of How Much Art?
I think it was. Yeah,
I think it was, and I don't know where that is now. But
hey, Jamie, was that the recording that had Drug Fools on it and that stuff, or was?
It might have been. It wasn't a whole album's worth of material. It was real early.
I remember there was Drug Fools. There was like a couple of.
Yeah, I think it was only like 6 songs, 7 songs, something like that.
It's probably 2 minutes long.
Yeah, right. Another artifact from what he sent me is this is from Mr. B. I guess it's a statement. The total production costs. Mastering, shipping. I guess it's the pressing, record covers, inserts, pressings. Yeah, the whole gas to the whole shebang. Wow. Yeah.
I remember me and Al going to the factory and picking up those records. Is it in Canada? Maybe did we drive to Canada? I can't recall, but I remember going and picking up those records and then driving back through New York City and going to like Bleecker Bob's and dropping them off at a couple of places. And they were the first ones to get it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that he kept all the receipts. Because another thing I find amazing is all the receipts of everything that SST ever did.
Yeah, nothing beats this one that I showed before, which is the radio beat receipt. You know,
for
you know, Was Kids done in these 2 6-hour sessions? I almost think it probably was, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Crazy, man.
I don't know if it was mixed, but it was tracked.
Oh, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was like 4 sessions total, and I couldn't tell you which ones were used for what, but
can we just trip out for a second that the studio time was $10 an hour?
I know. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, Jesus, man.
$10 an hour.
Sent us home with 1 cassette, and we probably dubbed that cassette, blasted into Al's van. We would record, and then run out to Al's van because he had this kick-ass stereo system, and we would listen to, we would go into the van and listen to it. If we thought it sounded good, would be good. If not, we'd go back and re-record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving things along, Joe, do we have an announcement? Do we want to bring Nancy on?
Yeah, bring Nancy on if you'd like.
Hey, Nance.
Hi there.
Joe,
Hey,
tell
Nance.
us what's happening.
Well, I think Nancy can speak to it. You want me to say something, Nancy? Or
Yeah, why don't you, Joe? Yeah, you're really steering the ship.
We've been talking about this since Al passed, and Nancy and I have been talking quite a bit, and I've talked to some others. We're going to do something in Boston on October 4th, which is Al's birthday. It's Al Baril Day. It's a Saturday in Boston. What that looks like, Nancy and I and some others are going to start working out and building out the show. What we do know is all of the money raised will go in Al's name to Dana-Farber, to the cancer research, because that is important. And Nancy, you could speak to why it's important too that we do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, or Dana-Farber, as
Dana-Farber, sorry.
Yeah, Al always spelled it Faber. In true Boston said left that R right out because it was Dana-Farber to him. But one of the things when I talked to Al's oncologist, he talked about the impact that Trump stopping health research was having on the breakthroughs that were happening, the studies that were happening, not just in cancer too, but on Alzheimer's and ALS and a lot of stuff. And it's really, really going to be devastating. And cutting off colleges like Harvard that does a lot of this research, it's going to be devastating. So I thought that if we could do anything, let's do it to raise money so that research continues. So no one ever has to go through what we're going through right now. And, I like that idea. And a lot of people have already given to Dana-Farber, and it really makes me happy. And I know that it would make Al happy too. Yeah. So I just want that research to continue. There were a lot of things that happened in Al's cancer journey, from operations to other kinds of care that were just groundbreaking, that would not have happened without research. His doctor that did the operation in the end of August, when Al couldn't eat and they rerouted his whole bowel, that was a Harvard professor doctor that did that and gave Al his life back for 9 months. That was really great. So yeah. I think it'll be, really fun. And I think Al would get a huge kick out of it. He was torn between don't do anything, but do something, So,
yeah, right.
Yes.
I don't want anything, but
I do.
Yeah. Make sure it's great.
He was on my shit about the obituary. The obituary had to be good. And I think I did okay by that. Definitely. And I know he would have loved all this stuff, Joe, that you orchestrated, and helped with. But I think he would like a show. I think.
Yeah, and a proper show. I mean, this is the guy from Boston who started this scene. Like, come on. We'll figure out, Nancy and I, and we'll announce kind of details. Drew, we'll work with everyone to get it done. Jamie and Chris, obviously you guys. But we'll announce something within 30 days of what it's basically going to look like. But there will be things we do through Al forever that will always lead back to this kind of donation to Dana-Farber. We have to. I mean, that was the thing, Nancy, and you said so eloquently, like, his last fight, he was always pushing. It was through battling cancer. Like, this is how I'm leading the charge. And okay, that's where we're going with you. And so stay tuned. We'll make it special, I promise.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks again.
Nancy, we'll see you in a minute.
Okay.
Okay, it's not over yet. See you in a minute. Joe, if you want to hang, I'll pull you back on if need be. But thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Take care.
Okay.
Go. Talk to you soon.
Cavalcade
Awesome,
of good. Speaking of which, let's bring on our good friend and supporter, photographer Glennie Friedman. Hey, man.
Oh, dude.
Hey,
What's
guys.
up, bro?
Hey, Jamie.
Hey, man.
Hey,
Good to
Chris.
see you.
Hey, Drew.
Good to
How
see
are
you.
you, buddy? Good to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tough times. Tough times.
Yeah, man. End of an era, it feels like.
You know, I don't know what the fuck it is. It's something like that, though.
Yeah.
No, it's an end of an era because none of us are giving up.
No,
And-
I hear that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just picked up this little pic. Remember these?
Right on. Yeah.
Al sent me a box of these for my son because my son's playing in a band now, and he sent us those just to have for the kids. You know, yeah. What can you say? Everyone said so many great things, and you talk about his legacy, Drew, and to me, you know, Al put Boston on the map. You know, there was a record. This is Boston, not L.A. Great idea. But the band that really stood out the most, the band that I invited to come to Los Angeles when I was managing a group, and we got our first big show, and we had to get the biggest band we wanted that wasn't an LA band. We called SSD. You know, we called Al, we called Jamie, and had them come out because, yeah, you know, those guys did it. They brought it. They brought it every time. And of course, Al being the leader, you know, he didn't fuck around, right? That just and that's why, you know, we remained friends for life. I spoke to him, you know, that last day. You know, it's really sad. You know, it's tough. It's a tough time, man. It's a tough time.
Yeah, absolutely. Think what you know. I kind of have this in something really interesting that you know in the crazy folder that Al sent me. Right, he sent me my big musical influences. Right, you know he saw that coming, so he sent me 3 of these. Right. And in typical Al fashion, this is the first one, right? Cheap Trick, Van Halen, AC/DC, and the Ramones. And he loved AC/DC. I mean, AC/DC.
Oh my
Dude,
God.
that was of all the bands. That's what I remember most about Al. Is his love of AC/DC. We used to talk about AC/DC all the time. In fact, I told the story about one time we gave Adam Horowitz a ride from you know, his dad lived in Gloucester, and so I gave him a ride to New York one time. We were headed to New York to see the Bad Brains or something, and we fucking jammed AC/DC like the whole ride. And he gets out of the van. You know, he's all bewildered, and he calls me the next day. He's like, "Dude, what the fuck is with AC/DC, man? You guys love AC/DC." I'm like, "Yeah, man, we dig it."
You know what that reminds me of? I just dug it up. This is dated Friday, May 7th, 1982, where Al was insistent that we all go to this film screening of AC/DC. This is my stub. I have it was in my collection. Do you remember this? A midnight screening of
Yeah, I vaguely remember
AC/DC,
this.
Let There Be Rock at the Sac Cinema. And there was
Sac.
the whole Boston crew, and we sat through this AC/DC film.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I sort of didn't really know who AC/DC was at the time. I was sort of like,
What?
Yeah, why are we sitting here watching this? Like, I didn't understand. Like, huh? What does this have to do with what we're doing? You know?
What year was that, Drew?
What's that?
What year was that?
82.
Okay.
82.
Yeah, so I couldn't go because I was still in school. I had school the next day. Yeah, midnight show. That was too late for me.
Here's another one. He sent me 4 of these. Here's another one that's a little more sort of interesting. Queen, Night at the Opera, Chicago. I'm not sure which Chicago record.
I'm not sure about that.
Boston and Rumors. Like, okay.
That's interesting. I remember the Queen thing. He was really into Freddie Mercury. He said Freddie Mercury is the ultimate entertainer. I remember he used to say it all the time. The other 3, I don't ever remember him bringing these guys up.
Drew, did he make these graphics himself and send them to you?
Yes.
It's hilarious.
Yes. Nance, you want to come on? Nance,
Yeah. Let me.
What's that?
So Chicago was because that was the first concert he ever went to.
Oh,
His sister took him to that, and they had seating. I think it was at the Boston Garden, and they had seating behind the stage. And he was just like, "This sucks," because Al always wanted to be right up front, smashed, on the side of the stage. And Fleetwood Mac, I think he just appreciated the artistry of that band, the harmonies and the songwriting more than anything. I don't know that he even owned that record, but I think that he just knew what they did. And of course, Boston is Boston, and that was
right.
a big band for him. So
and here, Queen,
love Queen.
Here is another one. There's two more to go. This one is, I think, more kind of like When We Were Living It, Chris and Jamie, right? I mean, this is, I think this is like circa 1980 right here,
Yeah,
we just had a conversation recently, he and I, about the Dead Kennedys, and he was just like, they got to be like the greatest band, that did it. To him, he really, he always liked the Dead Kennedys, but I think even in retrospect, looking back at what they did and as a front man and everything, he really loved them. So, and loved Black Flag, loved London Calling, loved the Clash.
Was Al, Michael LaRoche asked, was Al a Bon Scott?
He was a both fan. Yeah, he was both. He really liked both. Yeah. I remember the first time I came up, and I wanted just to be that, that punk rock girl for him and everything. And we were in his car and in his van, and he was playing AC/DC and Queen and Cheap Trick on his like 8-track or whatever. And I was so happy because those were my roots too. And you don't find that too often in the punk rock scene. And so I was just like, I'm going to marry this guy. He's, he and I we're on the same wavelength, like we both like Cheap Trick. We both like Queen. We both like AC/DC, but like we're punk hardcore too.
And here's the last one he sent me.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And I was sort of surprised to see Nirvana in there.
He loved Nirvana. He really, he liked that whole renaissance of the return from the hair bands to the stripped down quality of like a Nirvana.
Sure. Yeah. That's so yeah.
That's a trip. I can just picture him putting those things together.
Yeah. But I think my favorite one is this one. This one, Nancy, you weren't on for this one, but this one with Van Halen and Cheap Trick.
I mean, those were his bands. And he often told it, he told a story. He loved seeing Van Halen. He used to camp out and buy like the first 16 rows and then scalp them down there and stuff. That was his like side hustle. But it was really when he heard the Ramones that he said, you can't watch Van Halen and say, I'm going to do this. But when he watched the Ramones, he said, I can do this. And that's when he picked up a guitar and started playing.
That's awesome.
And it was really the Ramones that did that for him.
That's awesome. Let's see what else I got here.
Hi, Glenn.
Yeah. Let's see what else. Glenn, any other perspective you want to glean?
I think the first time I saw them was at CBGB's opening for the Bad Brains. I think Christmas '82, or maybe was Staten Island before that, Jamie?
I can't recall, but I think that was before that, because you told me that was the first time he shot us. I think. In fact,
was it
Staten Island was in July '82, and CBGB's was
so
December '82.
So that makes sense that I would shoot more pictures after I saw you play the first time. I only shot a couple pictures, but some of my, I think one of Al's favorite photos that I made of him was at that Staten Island show where he's, just the typical Al, just beating the shit out of his guitar, with all that he's got. And then at that CBGB show, I think, it's, I was talking about it the other day. I did a talk with Ian down in DC about my new Bad Brains book. And it was just that morning when we heard from, I think you, Jamie, or Nancy, and I think it was someone was speaking for you, Nancy. And we had to do that talk that morning. It was tough when Al's picture came up on the, on the screen because we were showing bits of the book. But yeah, it was at that Bad Brain show that, that photo was used on the lyric sheet for Get It Away, I think. And I was very honored. You know, I thought the band was great. I mean, you guys were the band from Boston. I mean, Gangrene was great, and there were other great bands for sure. But I really, you know, SSD Control was the band. And yeah, I was really proud to have a photo on the back of that record, and I was very proud to have the lyric sheet, you know, being my photo there, because there were a lot of great photos of Al. I got to admit, you know, he was so energetic, and the way he would just, you know, throw himself into the audience or just jump up in the air and fall on his back all the time. Fuck, we only knew that God, you know, that the rest of his life he'd have to fucking pay the price for that shit. But it certainly made a lot of good photos and a lot of good memories for a lot of people and inspired so many people, you know. And he also, Drew, I don't know if you remember, you know, my original My Rules fanzine that I made in October in the fall of '82, you know, I guess it was before that Christmas show. I had, you know, Al wrote something for that. You know, he wrote The Choice.
Yeah.
And he really, he threw down the fucking gauntlet, you know, for all these younger hardcore kids. You know, hardcore kids, I say, because, you know, I just wasn't as excited by that stuff later on, you know, but yeah, this is the zine, but Al had his piece in the back of that, and that really spoke to a lot of people more than, and so did Ian's piece. Everyone's piece said something incredible, but it was the only, you know, writing in the book was, you know, from, I think 8 or 9 people from around the country. And of course I had to pick Al from Boston, and Nancy and Al, inseparable, incredible couple, you know, always took care of me. When I never went to Boston without seeing them, that's for sure. And that was post, you know, hardcore, post SSD Control, post SSD, post Gage. Yeah, I sat through a Gage show.
Remember the time we went jet skiing, me, you?
I do. These guys invited me to go jet skiing. I'd never done it before. And I didn't know what the fuck these guys were doing. And I think Al had sold his guitar or some of his equipment to get his jet ski. But Nancy and Al and Jamie and Angie invited me up there to go jet skiing. And I fucking had a blast. I didn't know what the fuck was going on, but I was having a blast. I think I just went off on that thing, just spinning figure eights and just, you know, in the middle of the lake somewhere in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've always had a great time with that crew, SSD Control, but particularly, you know, these two families are like family to me. So of course, you know, I got, you know, damp here just talking about Al and looking at Nancy, two incredible people. And Al, you know, he was always full on. I mean, and he always asked every question he wants to know, just like Ian said, you know, when he would talk to you or you'd speak on the phone to him, he just wanted to know everything. You know, how did you do that book? How did you do this? You know, what made you do that? He always wanted to know what you were doing. And I always thought that was, you know, it was interesting because, you know, I think he's like a year older than me. And he obviously had done a lot of stuff with SSD Control and SSD and Gage and working at, you know, at his work and being a big part of the union and stuff like that. But, you know, he was always interested in seeing what the hell other people were doing and why the fuck were they doing it? He just didn't understand. Like, why do you do that? Why do you care about that? Why are you doing that? You know, but I was really happy that someone as hard-nosed as him, you know, his politics were always in the right place. And so many of these hardcore kids, particularly the hardcore kids, you know, don't give a shit about, you know, politics or caring about other people, or they call you libtards, or they think that you're mainstream because you fucking want to fight what you knew the oncoming fascism was. Al knew, we all fucking knew, but the real idiots don't fucking know. And they say, you know, just because you do this or you do that, your establishment, you need to shut the fuck up and learn from your goddamn elders, you know? And Al was one of them. Al taught us all a lot. And he was just, you know, yeah, I mean, you know, for me, I shouldn't fucking open my mouth maybe so much, but look at the fucking pictures. The pictures tell the story of the fucking reality. You know, I mean, as I've gotten older, I have to talk more, but, you know, but the pictures tell the story of, it inspired me. He inspired me to make those fucking photos, you know, and I just needed to share that with everybody else. Yeah. And, you know, and I guess that's what I would have to say about Al, but, you know, yeah, whenever I look back at the pictures, any of them, and I'm also honored that they used that photo of mine, you know, of Al from Staten Island in so many of the articles that were written. It's like I said, you know, Al always gave it 1,000%. So to get a good photo of him, as long as you can get his face in it, you were all right. And that's not always easy because the way he was moving around. But to me, right. You want the character, you want to see the intensity of the person's face. and again, it's not always easy, particularly with Al, the way he's moving around, but you know, it's all there in the photos and the films. You know, Jamie and Nancy were there when I interviewed Al. You know, I've been working on a movie for 10 years, a documentary about the Fuck You heroes. And Al, me and Jamie were just sitting behind the camera, you know, because he pulled up a little late, and we're just laughing our asses off. Al doesn't think he's doing any good. He's so fucking modest, you know, and he was serious and he knew shit, but he was also very modest, and he was so hard on himself, just like all of us are who really care about this shit, you know. And he was great on camera, you know. He was just, you know, he was just giving us gold, and it was just fun to see him talk, and he was nervous, and it was fun to see him even in that position. But I'm so happy that he's going to be included in the film when it finally does come out, whenever the fuck that is. Just because, he's fucking Al Baril. I mean, he is an icon, and he always will be in his legacy in this, you know, realm of Boston as a city, as punk rock as a thing. Al's there, you know, and we're all going to continue carrying his legacy. And and I'm proud to, you know, had a part in that, because he deserves it, you know. It's like, you know, he did us the favor by doing what he did. We were just fucking spectators.
Thank you. Absolutely, again. So
Okay.
thanks.
Well, I've been listening for over an hour.
Yeah.
You know, and I appreciate you guys doing this for Al, because he is very dear to me and to a lot of other people. And I see some people get on that I don't know. I've never met Mike Judge before, but like, as you said, it's very nice to hear some of these people talk for the first time about someone we all care and love and inspired so many of us. So it's good that you're doing it, Drew, and thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you, Glenn. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Okay, you guys, take care. I'll keep tuned in, so watch what you fucking say.
Woo. We love that guy.
I love that guy. Love that guy.
Glenn's great. Glenn's great.
Love that his kid is in the music business, and looking forward to seeing them one day as well.
Absolutely. You know, Nancy, this did you see this? I guess some trees were planted in Al's name.
Yes, that's a friend of mine from Philadelphia, Michael. He asked me, you know, would Al like that? I said, yeah, I think he would, you know. So the Arbor Day Foundation does a thing where you can plant trees in memory of someone, and he did that, and I think that was really cool, and I think Al would dig it. So it was pretty neat.
Right on.
Nice.
I think we're winding down. Just looking at a couple of. Ian just sent me a message, and you know what? It just fucked me up. It just
no, what'd he say?
It was just, he said some nice words, and it just shook me up.
Yeah, I know.
You know, whew. So
well, it's been hard, you know. I think I'm not one for posting much, because, as you can tell, because you never see me post anything. But even just doing the picture and trying to write something about him, and I realized so many people had written so many things that I think the only thing I could do was come from my personal perspective or what I was feeling. And I was, you know, in saying goodbye to him, I have my whole history as a teenager and the effect he had on me and pulling me along with him has really, you know, jettisoned me through the rest of my life, really, in a lot of ways. And most of all was his friendship. I mean, we hadn't played music for 40 years, yet we're sitting here talking about what we did 40 years ago. That's an amazing thing. It's amazing that we're all still here talking about this stuff. And if you know, the community, the camaraderie, the crew, the people, that really is what speaks through, folks. I mean, the fact that we're sitting here talking with each other, you know, and all these people are adding in, and we were part of a community, and I was part of something. And that is an amazing gift that he gave to all these people, was a kind of a place to be, you know, and That, you know, I love the guy forever for that, and always be grateful and have gratitude for knowing him as a friend and as a person, and having him in my life as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I've said
well
many
said.
times. I'm sorry, just that he, you know, if I hadn't met him, my life would be completely different. I mean, my wife I met through, you know, being in SSD control. Just the vast majority of the people that really matter to me in my life are, you know, from that period of time. They're all still super close friends of mine, and it's really, you know, I put it all on him. If I had never met him, if we didn't just, you know, by some random circumstance didn't cross paths with each other, you know, my life would be completely different. Completely different. It's really amazing when you think that. I mean, that's probably true of a lot of people, but there's a few that you can pick out that really, like you said, Drew, you know, change the trajectory of your life. Like you went down a path because of that person. It's really amazing.
Yeah.
And I just want to say something too, that how happy Al was when the book came out that told the band's story. And that was, you know, the hardest project that I ever worked on because of a variety of reasons. But when it came out, you know, and I told you, Al wasn't real effusive with compliments or anything like that, but he did a post and it touched my heart so much that I screenshot it. And he said, I have not felt this type of satisfaction for a long time. And I want to thank my hardworking wife for what I consider one of her greatest gifts and the completion of a 40-year-old mission. I can't thank her enough for getting this project off the ground. And man, that was the greatest gift to me when I saw how happy it made him. So I just wanted to mention that too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jamie, you we were kind of talking, and Chris, you tied it together. You know, a lot of the community here. And I think we should just sort of continue on here. You know, because this is such a roadmap of those that were, you know, and so many people that are watching the show right now. Like I see Katie, the cleaning lady out there, and so we got as far as Dwayne and Al, and then take it from Kevin, right?
Yeah, you of course know Kevin Porter from the Media Workshop, another place that we got to play. You know, if it wasn't for, you know, these art galleries that allowed us to put these shows on, you know, the scene would not be what it was. Phil and Flash, obviously, Springer's brother. Forced Exposure, which was probably the first fanzine out of Boston? Jimmy Johnson's fanzine, Forced Exposure, which I'm pretty sure SSD was on the first cover. Is that true?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah. What else we got? Newbury Comics, of course, where we hung out. Doug Simmons, he was a writer for the Phoenix, right? Sold by Starlight.
There's three people on here. I was sort of like, I don't like. Doug Simmons was one of them. I'm like, who is?
Doug Simmons? He was a writer who put SSD. He did like a cover story on us.
Right.
Jimmy D was Jimmy. You know, and I've got to be honest. I hit up Springer about some of the stuff because he remembered. Jimmy D is Jimmy Dufour. He owned Radio Beat.
That's right.
I did not remember that.
That's right.
Sheena was a radio personality.
She was a DJ.
Michelle, I couldn't remember. And Katie Goldman, Katie the cleaning lady, said that I believe that she was an Emerson student who took over Katie's show afterwards. Now, I don't remember Michelle, unfortunately. Oh, we were on the second one. Thank you, Katie.
No. She says, you know, you were on the first.
Oh, we were on the first one. Oh, okay. Yeah.
First Forced Exposure. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. So we got Michelle. Then we got, of course, Katie, who, you know, we jokingly called her like the mother of the scene. If Al was the dad of the scene, she was the mother of the scene.
Yeah.
I mean, early on, you know, she had this car. You remember the old station wagon? I think she called it the Low Society Mobile.
Hold on, I'm looking for the picture. Go on.
Yeah. I mean, she would, you know, drove us to shows and stuff. I mean, the kind of famously, I remember going to New York when the Clash would play in Bonds. We didn't even have tickets. Some kids had tickets, some of us didn't. But we all just she hopped in that, filled her car full of kids. Al had the van, or maybe even had the Monte Carlo back then. But anyways, we drove to New York.
We had the van.
Yeah, that's when that's actually the first time we saw the Bad Brains, when we were in New York for the Bond show. Then you got Bridget Collins, right? She did all our artwork and just a great friend of ours. Terry Lane, her friend, another great friend of ours. All people that were in the scene. Christine McCarthy, of course, she went out with Springer, and still to this day one of my best friends. She lives out in L.A. now. Angie, that's my wife, of course. Angie Carey at the time.
And Bridget is Richie Collins' wife.
Right.
Terry is Pat Rafferty's wife.
At one
it's
point,
like all you guys married all the gals that were hanging out with us.
So Mary Burnham, that was Angie's best friend from New Hampshire. Leslie, that's my sister, Leslie.
Wow.
Yeah, she worked the Minor Threat show, I think, at the Gallery East. She sold Cokes for us or something like that. But my sister, she was a huge influence on me musically and just the whole Monster aesthetic, everything. She's one of those other people in my life that really changed the trajectory of my life. And much of what I love is because of her. Cliff from San Diego. Nancy, explain who Cliff.
That's Cliff Cunningham, who was Al's friend Lee Cunningham's brother. And he would often send Al records and say, Al got a lot of his punk and hardcore musical background from Cliff because he had his hand on the pulse of that what was happening out there on the West Coast.
And I love how Cliff gets Cliff from San Francisco, from San Diego. We had to spell Cliff just so Cliff gets connected with San Diego.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Then you got Boston Radio, of course. Just a shout out to. I'm guessing that what he meant by that was ERS and MBR, which were the two stations that played us. Straight Edge Boys. I'm not 100%. I mean, obviously, I don't remember that term being thrown around. I'm not sure why Al put that in there. But Boston and DC hardcore bands, obviously, were huge fans. The Rangers were
was that the Rosalind Rangers?
Well, I think it's the DC version of the Boston Crew.
Yeah. Rosalind Rangers, right?
Yeah. I think Ian had something kind of to do with that. Obviously, Bad Brains, Iron Cross, Black Flag, The Mob from New York, one of my favorite New York punk bands, hardcore bands. Negative Effects, of course, Gang Green, Jerry's Kids, FU's, COs, of course.
Yeah.
Yours, that's your band. DYS, our friends.
My band made the cut.
Yeah. Our friends, our audiences, and our crew. And, of course, the crew. You got Jake Phelps, Paul Richards, Larry Hitch, Tony Perez, Andy Strahan, Matt Dykeman, JP. Anybody remember JP?
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. So he was a dude that came. Yeah, he was only hung around with us for about a year or two. I think that he went into seminary school or something. And I remember Al saying, "Oh man, JP just had this crazy talk with me that he's getting out of hardcore and going into the religion or some shit." Then you got, of course, Choke, Jack Kelly. You got Richie Collins. You got Pat Raftery. After that, you got the mighty Drew Stone, Jonathan Anastas, Dave Smalley,
Jay Johnson
of Jay Johnson. He spells his name Jai, but nobody knew that back then. Jonathan, that's Jonathan Roberts.
That's Jonathan from Stranglehold.
Bass player from Stranglehold. Yeah,
that's
early on. He used to come to a lot of shows, hang out with us and stuff. You got Dwayne from Gallery East, of course, and then you got Jimmy, Joe, and John. So that's Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
Joe Sackout.
Joe Sacco sent me a message the other day.
Oh, nice. And unfortunately, the last dude on the list, I don't know his last name, but these three guys, Jimmy, Joe, and John, they were all from Watertown, Mass, and they always came to the early shows. Yeah. But I can't remember John's last name, unfortunately.
Jay Johnson says they spelled my name wrong, but it's on. They spelled your name wrong. Yeah. So, and Katie Cleanane says JP broke his neck at the channel. Is that right?
I mean, yeah. He was the guy in the next place.
Yeah, that's right.
Very well.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So that was the Boston Crew at the time. Now this is 1981-ish, 2-ish, right? So this is early on before, there was many people that came into the fold later on, but those were the early people.
Okay. I got one coming up. Wait, I'm just digging it up. There's a couple of them. Hold on. This is gonna make you laugh. Oh, where's the good one? Give me the good one. Found it. All right, hold on. Almost there.
How many pictures do you have up on that other screen?
What's that?
How many pictures on that other screen you're looking at over there, huh?
You want to see? Hold on.
No.
Hold on. Hold on. Come on, play along. Let me see if no, I can't. My other camera. The computer heats up, but this is a shot from the archive of here you go. How's that? So this is hold on, we'll get jiggy with it. This is a shot of the FUs on tour when we went out and we all packed into Katie the cleaning lady's station wagon, and there it is.
Yeah,
that's it right there. The Low Society mobile or whatever. And look at the flyer that it's taped onto the back is like a Mighty CO's Gangrene Jerry's Kids at Gallery East flyer.
Is that the Planet of the Apes one?
The Planet of the Apes, yeah.
That's not the Planet of the Apes one I made.
Oh.
That's
Okay.
another one. But here's let me see. Here's it. We went to Ray's Pizza in the city here, and here we go. This is Julie, right? Julie Angerman. How do you pronounce her name?
Angerman, yeah.
Who passed away. And I got like all these pictures from that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was a drummer. She played in
Impact Unit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's
cool, man.
that. Let me bring it back to reality here. But yeah, it all gets set up on the other screen before it comes onto this screen. And I've gotten really fast at it. So
quite the system you got down there, kid.
Listen, it's primitive, but it works for me. So wow, what a great get together. And
thank you for doing it, Drew. It means a lot.
Great.
It really means a lot, I think, to all of us and to Al.
I can't believe I'm looking at the clock here. 3 hours and 27 minutes we've been doing this. How long was Al's interview? We got to beat it.
I think Al's interview was like 3.5 hours, not even. I think
let's let him have the title.
Yeah,
I think we beat it. So that said, it was fantastic. Nancy, thank you so much.
Thank
I love
you, Drew. Thank you for doing it. I
it
love
was
you
fantastic.
too. And it was fabulous. Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
Okay, thanks.
All right, take care.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Bye, Nance. Talk to you later.
Talk to you soon.
Whew. So I'm getting hungry.
I hear you, man.
Yeah, Jay Johnson says very moving, very, very moving, and certainly was.
Yeah, I needed this. I needed to process, as they say. Yeah. I hate to overuse that word, but on some level, I knew last week when it happened, the way I was feeling that first day, I was like, this is going to be a little while, and you got to go and talk with all your old friends and, all the people who you knew who were together and, acknowledge and, give praise, give thanks, that we actually had that,
It was good, man. It just goes to show, it's like when you get together with your community and your people and you could work through your grief and that's what it's about in a lot of ways, and it's sad when people are isolated and they don't have a chance to, connect in a community, any community, whatever community. And I think just isolation like that is just can be incredibly painful,
Yeah.
So
I just think back on our childhood, our formative years, our teen years, and I mean, it was really an amazing time. I mean,
it was.
I don't even know that I really could grasp how fucking amazing our youth was. But man, oh man, when I look back at it now, I'm like, wow, we did so much shit in a 4-year period. We packed so much shit into it. It was really amazing.
Yeah, and the first. Those formative early years, almost like the first 18 months, right?
Yeah,
was just God. Who knew, right? It was just so that it would just reverberate, the way that it has, and those things that we did as young people, when there was no roadmap. Let's find a place and book a show and build a stage and make flyers and put them up ourselves. And hey, you make a fanzine, and hey, you take pictures, and hey, let's record our own record and we can put it out ourselves. We don't need anybody. And I said this in the beginning of the show, and that I think one of the biggest things that, like, Al's lineage, his DNA that's been handed down, at least to me, was the work ethic.
Yeah.
It was the work ethic, man. It was like, you can do it, man. You don't need anybody else. You can do it. Stay calm, work it, just figure out, learn how it's done, and then step by step, you can do it.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about focus. That's exactly it. He there was no obstacles were going to stop him from doing what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And like you say, he took us along for the ride, which was amazing. I remember somebody wrote something and they were like, nothing really mattered to us. We all felt invincible because we had Al. Al was like the leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I can tell you, I definitely felt that way, especially when you and I were cowering up in our practice room up in Lynn, and he was standing up for us down on the street there.
Dude, crazy story. So, one of our first practice spot before we started practicing in his mom's basement, we practiced in this place in Lynn, which was in like the worst part of Lynn, and we did a real late night practice. I think it was like a midnight practice or something. Anyways. We come out and there's all these fucking guys, man. They're just like beating the shit out of people and breaking things. And I came out and this guy throws a bottle at my head. I duck down, it smashes through a storefront window. Alarms are going off. I mean, it was chaos. I run back up in the living room and Al is driving down around in his Monte Carlo. He's like, stay in the room, protect the equipment. And eventually we got up. But Chris, didn't they like come in upstairs and they threw a guy's guitar out the window? And
we heard them. I was cowering in the room. I was literally.
What set this off? Why were these guys?
They were drunk. The bars were getting out, and they were drunk. And I remember the guy with an empty bottle. I'm looking out the window, and he goes to Al, "Hey, this is yours."
Yeah.
And Al was, wasn't drinking. He's like, "No, that's not mine." And that's when the guys tried to jump him. But Al's a big guy, and he was able to. It seemed very normal to Al. For some reason, it seemed like him being able to deal with that was like, I got to deal with this. Let me deal with this. You guys stay up there with the equipment. I'll come back and get you. Guys came up the hallway. We could hear them run down the hall. They broke into a room, punched the guy out, and like threw his guitar or mic stand out the window. Jeez. I know something went out the window.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. The early days.
Well, I remember Lynn was rough and tumble, man.
Yeah, Lynn, the city of sin.
You never come out the way you went in.
That's right. That's what they say.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah, Lynn, and of course that's where Al's from, right? So I mean, it kind of makes sense. He was a no bullshit, don't fuck with me kind of guy.
This is I think, seeing all the photos and everything by everybody. I do think that for me personally, I think this is my favorite. This one really speaks. This one speaks to me, man. It's like everybody in this shot, just everybody kind of at the peak of their powers, man.
Chris looks like 12 years old there. Chris, you look
yeah,
you look like a tiny little kid.
Yeah. Do you still have that bass, Jamie?
I do. It's on the wall.
Oh wow! Wow.
Yeah, this is the bass we recorded just about everything on this bass, except for the first sessions of the Kids Will Have to Say. That one I had like a different Fender, but which sounded like shit. And I remember, I think it was Lou Giordano. He's like, dude, you got to buy a fucking new bass, man. That thing sucks. And I went out and I bought this thing, and I've had it since I bought it in 1981.
What does the back look? Let me see the back of it. Let me see.
There's a bunch of stickers on it and shit.
So it doesn't look. I was just wondering if it was like torn up or worn in or beat up or scratched up. But no, there's some wear to it.
Yeah, there's some wear and tear on it.
Yeah.
I bought it. It's a '78. I bought it in '81. So I'm the second owner of it, but I've had it ever since.
Another great picture. I love this shot. Is that the same bass in this picture?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's got. I don't know. You can notice, but there's a tiny little spider on the end because I got that. Chuck Dukowski had had on his bass. He wrote "Creepy Crawl" on his bass, and I don't know why. I was like, "Oh fuck, man! I'm putting a spider on there."
Right.
And it's still on there to this day.
Wow. Well, Chuck Dukowski was.
He was a huge inspiration for me. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, his the way he was on stage, he was like a wild animal, and he was a huge inspiration for me as a.
We love that band early on, and
oh
he was. People talk about early Black Flag. I mean, I know a lot of us feel like Chuck Dukowski was like the greatest part of that band early on. You know,
when Dez was singing, man, that was when I first started seeing them, and it was like I had never experienced anything like it. That's really what was a huge turnaround for me, as far as like the type of music I got into. I mean, previous to that, I was listening to like Alice Cooper and the New York Dolls, a lot of cool shit, but once I heard Black Flag, I was like, oh my God, this is like something I've never heard before, and it pretty much that's when I decided, okay, I'm getting in a band. I'm making music like this.
Sure. And we mentioned, and just to mention it again, is like, I think it's a little lost in the swirling sands of time because what Henry Rollins did with his career after and everything. But when Black Flag Damaged came out, that was in the Bad Brains, Bad Brains cassette. Those were just
Yeah, they definitely changed the game for sure.
Yeah, there we go. So that said, closing, Chris, any final thoughts? Anything you'd like to say?
I don't know. How do you close it out? You know what I mean? I think I'm glad to hear that we'll be meeting again in October to do a show there. I think that's a really great idea.
Is that October 12th? He said
4th.
4th.
Oh yeah.
4th.
Yeah. That's Al's birthday.
Yeah. And we'll kind of keep processing as we go.
Just a quick question: did Chris really go to Berkeley?
Yes, I did, and I graduated in 1987 with a degree in music and production engineering, which means I can cut magnetic tape, which, everybody's doing that nowadays. So. Yeah, that's right. I was in a punk rock band, and people make fun of me going to Berkeley, and I go to Berkeley and they make fun of me being in a punk rock band. So
there was a lot of that back then,
There was, unfortunately.
There was a lot, but yeah. Anything else, Chris?
Well, I keep Al close at heart. I mean that I think people kind of see this big gruff guy, and my personal experience was a different thing. So I don't expect that people got the same thing I got, and that's really special to me. That's something I have with Al, and I'm sure Jamie has it as well with Al. It's kind of an insider. We got an insider take on Al, and I'll always be grateful for that.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, Chris. Well, let's talk soon. I love you, man, and we'll see you. We'll see you. Oh, I'm playing Boston on my birthday. You guys got to come through.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
On
Wait.
the 28th, right? June 28th.
Hold on. Here it is.
Write that down.
Here it is. June 20. Yes, June 28th at the Brighton Music Hall. Brighton Music Hall, Saturday, June 28th. Incendiary Device. We're coming up and playing with Tree at the Brighton Music Hall. We'll keep in touch. You guys got to come through.
Awesome. Definitely.
Talk to you later, Chris. Thank you.
Good to talk to you. Take care.
All right, man. Later.
Whew. You're all alone now.
Marathon, dude. I'm exhausted.
I knew going into it was gonna be something else, but it was great, man.
Yeah. No, it was great, man. I'm so pleased that all those people came on to say a few words about
that.
Al.
How about that?
I mean, the dude was important to a lot of people. It's really been in these last few years that I recognize that I've come to realize what the band meant to a lot of people. But in this last week, seeing what people write about Al, man, it was just so beautiful.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and even like guys like Mike Judge, you know, who you know, a lot of us knew each other growing up. A lot of us, you know, Glenn and you and me, Ian, Roger, but like a guy like Mike Judge from another generation never really knew you, Al, personally, you guys personally. It's just a real testament to the incredible, you know, effect he had, you know, on kids of that generation, those straight edge kids, and Purcell and Ray Capo and Mike Judge and so on and so forth, you know?
Yeah. When you hear people talk about, you know, the importance of the whole straight edge thing and the way that we kind of, you know, it was at the forefront of what we were doing. You know, just, I mean, so many people talk about or have talked to me about the fact that the band saved my life, or, you know, it was just so influential. It was a point when I was really having a hard time in my life, or, you know, my family, whatever. And, you know, the band meant so much to me, you know, the kind of stuff that Mike was saying, Mike Judge was saying. It's really, you know, like I said, when you're a kid, you don't know what the hell you're doing. You're just having fun. And you know, you're living life and you're having a blast. But then, you know, when you're later on in life is when you find out, like, wow, this really did mean a lot to a lot of people. And, you know, pretty damn proud of that.
Yeah, for sure. But I do think that I remember I did feel it at the time that it was a special moment. I did feel that. I felt that something like, this is unique, this is special. And this is something that might not happen ever again in my life.
Yeah.
You know, I did feel like there's something special here. And I felt like we're living through special times. I do remember feeling cognizant that, you know, this is a special thing we're doing, you know?
Yeah. For me, I always, you know, I think I was just living in the moment, but I did recognize, I mean, we were just having a lot of fun. I mean, the camaraderie and going to shows together. I mean, every weekend I felt like there was something to do. I mean, if you had nothing to do, just go down to a Rat, just hang out in front of in Kenmore Square. Someone is going to show up, you know, whether it be Bob White, just or, you know, it could be anybody, but there was always going to be somebody there that was going to be, you know, that you knew and, you know, you could relate to.
We talked about that in the Boston Hard Club. Like, there was no cell phones or beepers or internet, but like somehow everybody would. I guess you'd be like, hey, we're getting together, you know, tomorrow at 4 on Newberry Street. We'd constantly show up at the same time at the same place constantly.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Like I said, Kenmore Square was definitely our hangout, and you'd hang out there until somebody else showed up. They would walk along and they'd be, hey, we're going to so-and-so. And then we'd all head out to go, you know, there's a party, a BU party or whatever it was.
Right.
And, you know, it was like a huge, huge family.
You know, it was fun that we used to do like early on is we'd sort of collectively or whatever, I don't know, the call we made, we would like go en masse Boston crew to like a show like the Cramps or the Ramones right? Yeah. We would just like, maybe there's some little thread or inkling that like there's some reason why like all right, the Ramones or the Cramps. I remember the Cramps, you know, like, and we would go like the whole crew, and they would just the whole thing would just be like, holy, you know, and we would start dancing, and people would just be like, what's going on? There was no reference point to it, you know. There was no like, what's going on? Who are these guys? What is this? Go to a Cramp show and just rip up the dance floor, you know?
Yeah, we'd definitely make an impression when you showed up, because like you said, back then, there was not a bunch of guys with shaved heads looking like we did. It was, you know, but that's the case of, you know, I'm sure every city had that scene that kind of was out there.
Absolutely. I love you, bro. And
all right, man, I love you too.
And you're coming down. Whoa.
Yeah,
you're coming,
I'll be at the big wedding show.
Okay, so you're coming down for, when is it? Hold on.
June 1st.
Yeah. So you're coming down for this. You're going to be here, and we're going to talk because maybe you come up and play with us. Yeah. And then you guys are playing this. You're playing The Long Wait, Sunday, July 13th, Fury of 5, Shoot the 5, The Long Wait, featuring Jamie Sciarappa, Jerry Body, and Thug It. Free all ages Sunday matinee on the Bowery. So
we had an absolute blast last time we played, you know, one of your shows at the Bowery. It was just freaking great. So we're really looking forward to that.
Shows are great. All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, dude.
All right.
Thank you so much. Love you, brother.
My pleasure. To you later. Bye-bye. Whew. How's everybody doing? Wow. You know, let me just say that, like, we went into something like this, you know, with a very, I was nervous going into the show today. I was a little stressed out and a little nervous because, like I said, I got Ian and Glenn Friedman and Roger and Mike Judge all at once. And then I just wanted to do right by my old friend. I just wanted it to be great, you know, for Al. And it was. So I feel good about it, you know, and I really appreciate the opportunity to have the show and to be able to bring us all together like this. It is really the joy of my life. You know, it's like a lot of stuff has sort of faded into the background. You know, I don't have as much passion anymore for being a filmmaker or for a couple other things, but I have an incredible passion to do this show that brings us all together from around the world and just gives us a chance to do something like this. And my pleasure, Nancy, and it sure meant a lot. So everybody out there, man. Hey, Reverend Hank Pierce, thank you so much. And that's it means a lot to me from everybody, you know. See you June 1st. Yeah, come on down to my wedding. I'm marrying the love of my life, you know. I know you're out there and you're watching, Rochelle. I love you very much. So that said, yeah, I'll see you. Please, I know a lot of new people tuned in. Please tune in on Sunday where we're talking about the new book that I'm putting out, London 77, The Lost Archive. Lots more to come. Thanks, everybody. Tell your loved ones that you love them. That is important in this short life that we have. And until next time, do good things and good things will come to you.
Conditioned by indoctrination,